Hey there, kids. It's me, Oni the Unicorn. And I'm here to tell you that f***ing your dreams ain't cheap. In fact, it costs a ton of cash to do. So that's why me and the ONW Radio Show need your help. Just go to the website displayed below and hit us up with some cash, yo. $1, $5, $1 million if you have it to spare. Any amount is appreciated. Well, I gotta go because these dreams ain't gonna fuck themselves. See ya!
Oh my God, what's gonna happen? Oh my God, we have a new champion!
Welcome back to another edition of the Oh No Wrestling Podcast. It's been a while, but we are happy to be back with you. So much to discuss because it has been so long. This is your first time listening. My name is Owen. I am your Sharp Break Kid. And along with me tonight is the one and only Double J Jansen holding down the number 2 seat for me.
What's up, good brother Owen? So good to
Dude, it's so great to be back. So great to have you with us. Oh, great,
Did I
Jake.
freeze?
Yeah, you froze, but you're back now. It's
all
fine. It's fine. Just power through it. That's what I do. But yeah, no, so much to talk about, of course, because it has been so long. And boy, oh boy, you take a couple weeks off, and man, it seems like the whole wrestling world has changed since the last time I talked to you, huh?
Oh my God, and how? Holy crap!
Holy crap.
We go away for we don't do the show for a month, and yeah, everything has just changed. So
Everything has some for the better, some for the worse, obviously, depending on how you kind of look at things. But we do have to address, obviously, the very, very, very serious allegations that have come out for regarding one Vincent Kennedy McMahon and numerous other potential people involved in wrestling with this whole situation. I've heard a lot of people, of course, the discourse about this has gone, it's been everywhere from, of course, the traditional wrestling, media and dirt sheets. But, of course, it's made, countless, major publications around the world at this point and news outlets. And from what I can say about it after reading the 67-page lawsuit, essentially, is, and I will agree with one Brian Alvarez when he said that this thing read like a horror story. And I think that's probably the best way that it can be put, because we all knew deep down that that Vince was probably a pretty horrendous individual. But I don't think any of us really had a clue that it was quite as bad as what we ended up reading. The questions, first off, the timing is very interesting, that this all kind of broke literally was it the day after the Netflix deal was sealed?
yeah, it was just a couple days after,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
And if we remember too, we were always told that Vince was kind of back in, the role that he was in to negotiate this television deal. I wonder if that is all coincidence, that that this lawsuit dropped the very next day. Did they know it was going to drop the next day, or did it a couple days after? Or that they wanted Vince to help get this deal done, and then they fast tracked this thing to make it happen. So because they knew this thing was going to be coming up. Who knows? We may never know this stuff.
I honestly, man, I've got to think they didn't. And there's one reason why I say that. There is a picture from when they rang the bell that morning after they announced Rock as an executive board member, of Vince McMahon and Rock standing there looking down and smiling at the camera. That picture would have never happened had The Rock known anything about this lawsuit coming out
That's
this week.
that's
I
true.
guarantee you, because that man has such a huge image to protect, not only of his WWE and interest as an actor, but I mean, he's getting the XFL. What's the new name? The USFL.
UFL or
The
United. I think UFL.
in addition to all kinds of other projects. So I have to think that this was actually a surprise to the board
Right.
and even maybe to Netflix. I mean, they knew this was out there, but I don't think anyone, and as you said earlier, you had cut out, I had froze for a bit, but I don't think any of us were prepared for just how bad that was.
Dude,
And that's just a sampling of it. That's not
exactly.
even everything,
It's
you
not
know?
everything. We've got to think that there are so many more NDAs out there.
Hmm.
This is a fraction of the money that has reportedly been spent in hush money by Vince McMahon over the years. I mean, it was something between 17 and 19 million estimated in these
Hmm.
hush money deals, and this one here was only 3 million of those dollars. So how much other stuff is out there remains to be seen. I have to think that with this getting so much attention, that more is going to come out, and more women hopefully do come forward to help put further nails in the coffin of Vince, because I have to think at this point, Jay, there's no possible way they can ever have him come back on
No.
television again in the WWE, right?
And he doesn't even have any shred of power to come back at all. I
Right.
mean, he's just
It's
there's
different than the
just no
first
way it
time
could
around.
happen.
It's different than the first time around before the whole TKO thing. He was able to weasel himself back in because of the weight that his shares held and all that type of stuff. This time around, he doesn't have that same power. It's literally, I think, impossible for him to do it. And from an optics, perception, yeah, the fans gave Vince that huge reaction when he retired, or was forced to resign. Let's be honest.
Hmm.
That would not happen this time around. I
No.
definitely don't think this would happen. Um, it's tragic. It's awful. It says a lot about the person. It says a lot about corporate culture. I think this is a
Hmm.
case that's going to be discussed in outside of wrestling for years. I think this is going to really set an example, and also it's definitely going to uh present challenges, and it's definitely going to further what TKO and even Triple H in particular, it's going to further what they have to do to make this right.
Exactly. And as more stuff comes out, we're gonna get more names, not only of the people involved, but of the people who just look the other way. You start to, things, like, how much Stephanie knew, how much Triple H knew, how much Shane knew, who noped himself back out of the company, a couple years before Vince left again. There had to have been some kind of knowledge here. And um, Ronda Rousey had an interesting tweet about, I think it was Bruce Pritchard.
Mm.
As long as he's still in there, he's kind of Vince's
He-
surrogate, and
right.
you just gotta clean house at this point. I was really disappointed with how Triple H answered during the presser. I don't know if you got a chance
Uh,
to see
I
his his
I
his.
did, and I think I have a bit of a different take than most people on that, because I'm not sure I'm not sure what you wanted him to say. I'm not sure what they wanted him to say. It is an ongoing case, and I wish he would have, addressed it a little bit more head on, with even a line akin to, "We can't discuss a lot of this right now." I also think that it's a bit foolish for you to ever think that you're going to get straight answers on a WWE presser. So I think that plays into it. But I do get your point. It was a super cop out answer. I think Cody honestly
Well, yeah,
answered more and had a
Cody
more
was
truthful answer and
definitely the better answer. But
than
my
Trip.
problem with Triple H's was mostly that he had kind of first he said he didn't read the
Yeah,
he didn't read the complaint, which
that is
which
bullshit. That is
that was like you didn't have to even say that. But the thing that I thought was the big mistake was when he just said, "I just want to focus on the positive. It's been a great week for the WWE."
ugh.
Man, I'm sorry. If we look back in history, this is one of the darkest weeks for the
Yeah.
WWE in its
I
history.
mean,
It's one of the darkest
it's
weeks for pro
comparable to the
wrestling.
Benoit
Like,
situation. It's
yeah,
comparable
yeah.
to some
It's
of the
just there's nothing great about it, and so I thought that was a bad answer. So in terms of what I wanted him to say, I would have preferred him just to say either nothing, just to say it's an ongoing thing. I have no comment on it right now. But the great week stuff was, ooh.
Yeah, that definitely could have been left out of there. I think that they needed to have honestly prepared a like it seems like they didn't do a very good job of preparing a statement. Like you knew this
Mhm.
was going to happen.
That
I
was a surprise too. You
and
know.
yeah, and I if cuz Triple H is on the board of directors as well, correct?
Yep.
So if you're on the board of directors and you didn't read this, that just makes you a bad businessman in a lot of
Hmm.
ways. That makes you like that doesn't look good to your stockholders that you didn't read this. So that first off, I don't believe for a minute. Now when it comes to the knowledge of what Stephanie and Trips and maybe Shane had and others within the company, I feel like they all had some knowledge that Vince had girlfriends and Vince was, cheating on his wife and Vince was,
Hmm.
probably sexist and a lot of those things. Do I think that they knew the depravity of these allegations? No, I don't. I absolutely don't. I do,
And I have a hard time saying if I do either or not. But it's gonna be interesting to know to find out. You know.
It is. I think that the timing of Stephanie resigning and then coming back and then resigning again, all of that is very, very, it makes a lot more sense now.
Hmm.
It definitely plays into it definitely, plays into that. I wonder, like, you've got to think too. I mean, with stuff with Stephanie in particular, the rumored angle, like back in the day, that Vince wanted to do an incest angle with her, stuff like that, like, which was always like sick, like, does that play into it? Does the rumors of stuff like with Macho Man and Stephanie, does that play into things that are deep rooted in this whole situation? We may never know the answers to these questions. We probably won't. But at least Laurinaitis is gone, right? Like that's at
Hmm.
least that's the case. At least they had the sense TKO when I mean the pressure was on that the moment that the rumblings of Slim Jim backing out of being the sponsor for Royal Rumble and backing out with their partnership at WWE. I think that was probably the okay. That's it then. Like you have to go now because now you're affecting the bottom line. And what is it?
Yep.
Ari Emanuel had to probably make that call. It begs the question, even with him, how much did he know prior to this? Because he must have known that this case was coming. I mean, and maybe Vince did a good job of hiding some of that stuff. Who knows? But the whole board of directors needs to be, examined. There needs to be further investigations into
Hmm.
who were these. If you've read it, like who were these referees and stuff that are like, there was one particular ref that was mentioned in this, like that was, buddies with Vince and enjoying the lewd photos and then production crew and like is that a
Yep.
Kevin Dunn? Did Kevin Dunn see the writing on the wall? Did he back out because of did he go when this all started like bubbling up? And I think we're in for a lot more of this. My question to you is what are the chances do you think of this actually going to a criminal court with Vince McMahon possibly serving any time? Do you think that's even remotely a possibility?
So that's a tough call because I mean it would entirely depend on an investigating body to file charges. These are certainly within the last couple years.
Mm-hmm.
So these instances of rape and sexual assault are definitely chargeable. So I don't know. It depends. I mean, you know, looking at a lot of the reaction online, a lot of people wanted to say some of these text messages were fake, but now I'll tell you something about the legal process is lawyers do not include these things as evidence unless they've vetted them completely and ensured that they're
Absolutely. And
real.
they're easy to prove. They can subpoena like the phone companies. They can get record of all those texts. You would be
Exactly.
absolutely foolish as a lawyer to be putting fake screenshotted texts in. And no matter, and I think that's the biggest piece of evidence that they really do have.
If it's an
Otherwise,
admittance, yeah.
because otherwise it really is kind of her word against his, and with a strong enough lawyer you can probably beat some of that. But if you're just looking at the texts, that's all you need. That's literally all you need. Now, one interesting thing, this needs to be an investigation by a third party instead of its own board of directors, which it was
Because they did that
in the
and
initial,
they never
right.
talked to her.
And they
They never
never even
talked
talked to her.
It's just
Exactly.
ridiculous.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, it's important to be reminded that this case is not just being brought on Vince himself, it is being brought against WWE as well. And I found it interesting that it wasn't brought against Laurinaitis as well. Like I thought that there was enough there to definitely put him on the chopping block as well, for lack of a better term. In a legal, like, criminal way. I think that there's definitely some stuff there. Do you foresee Brock ever being back within the company in a major way?
That's a really tough call because if you look at the specifics of the details of Brock's involvement, he was supposed to they trafficked this young
Mhm.
lady out to Brock, and he was supposed to
But
have a night with her,
but
but
it
he was
never
just too drunk.
actually
It never
happened.
actually happened, and so it just turned into a tape that Brock watched. So that alone, and his involvement in that alone, and the fact that they didn't bring him in on the Rumble tells me that they're probably going to keep their distance for a little while.
But they
How
will.
long? How long that is, I don't know. But let's be honest now. We're in a new era. The
Yeah.
WWE does not need Brock Lesnar, and to be honest, he doesn't need the WWE anymore. He probably is sitting fine
Oh
on
yeah.
his ranch up in Montana.
Yeah, no,
So
I 100% agree with you there, but I believe that all it takes is one big wrestling scandal to kind of come and go for
mhm.
for him to come back. And the reason I think that they will bring him back is that he is, I mean, we all know that in reading the document, the way it's described, that is Brock Lesnar. We all know that the time frame works out with his contract. We all know that
Mhm.
there can only really be one former heavyweight UFC champion that was named, but he wasn't explicitly named by name. And
Yeah, exactly.
that right there is the one where I'm like, that's how he's going to get away with it somehow.
With that being said, I really don't want to see him back. I wasn't the biggest Brock fan over the last 10 years
It,
anyways.
eh,
Um,
it's actually
um,
sad because I was never a Brock fan, but in the last couple of years with the Cowboy Brock stuff and him showing some personality on camera and kind of a reinvention of his character, and the willingness it seemed to of him to like put guys he liked over, I I was actually kind of like, I think I like this version of Brock
mm,
Lesnar now.
that's
Um,
fair.
Now, that being said, that's kind of all gone, with
Yeah,
with
yeah.
with all of this. So I'm not, yes, I will not be surprised to see him back, but I also will not be happy to see him back.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a while,
Yeah.
for sure. Vince will. You know, Vince. The irony of this is Vince is never gonna make it into his own Hall of Fame. That even Trump's in. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
nor should he. You know.
Vince always said he never wanted to be because like it was his thing, but you know eventually that would have happened, and I'm
Hmm.
sure of it. It what'll be interesting to see is how they reference history at times, how
Yeah,
much they ever use
he's a
his.
huge part of it.
Yeah, because there's some stuff that's just going to be unavoidable, right? Like his name will have to be mentioned. It's just under what circumstances and how they do it and how often. But it's going to be a lot less than they would have done in the past, right? You know, like
Yeah.
that's a total given.
Benoit's kind of the litmus test for that, how
Yes,
they handled Benoit in the past, and
yes.
they give him a mention when it's absolutely necessary, but the rest of the time, but I don't know. I mean, because the entire Attitude Era, I mean, he was absolute linchpin of it.
Mhm.
It just it's gonna be really interesting to see how they reference it
And
going further.
and that's not there's this thing, right, with separating the art from the artist. That
Hmm.
is something that we have had to do countless times in pop culture history, right? Like can you ever listen to a Michael Jackson song the same, or can like, even though he wasn't ever found guilty of anything, but we all
Right.
kind of know with that, right? And there are countless others. I for one am of that opinion that you kind of have to do that. You have to
Hmm.
separate the art from the artist. And in that case, you do have to say that Vince McMahon is the most influential person in wrestling's history.
Yeah, and
Like
that can be
and
true.
that
Yeah.
and for all his bad booking and bad creative over the last 10 plus years, he was responsible for some of the greatest angles of all time, the greatest feuds of all time, and some of the stuff that wouldn't, like, that we loved as kids or as younger
Mhm.
people, that wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for him. So again, it
We
doesn't
wouldn't
make
be
him a
sitting
good
here right
no,
now.
we wouldn't.
I guarantee,
No, we wouldn't.
and but I mean, I think the difference here is like Bill Cosby never joked around about date raping women, and
Right.
Michael Jackson never sang about sleeping with kids. But Vince McMahon, if you look at some of the
Oh
stuff
my
he did
god.
during the Attitude Era, holy crap, he is the character. Like he lived that character,
And
and you hear that a lot in wrestling. And this guy it's the truth.
it was almost hidden in plain sight, right? Like
Yeah.
it was right there. A clip I want to play just very, very briefly. We won't play the whole thing, but it's kind of resurfaced today, and I think it's just so ironic, right? Like if you take a look at this, let me go ahead and just do my screen share thing here real quick for everybody, so that you and the people at home watching can see this. But this is from the Phil Donahue show on March 16th, 1992. And here we go. I'm just going to roll this clip.
Do you believe that sexual harassment exists in your workplace?
I believe that there's a possibility of sexual harassment existing everywhere.
I asked directly if it was at the
I
World
don't
Wrestling
want it
Federation.
in my organization. I don't want it.
I'd like to reiterate the question.
Just, I mean, already right there, right? Like, how insane that.
You can see it in his eyes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Do you believe there is sexual harassment amongst the wrestlers or employees of the World Wrestling Federation today?
There is a possibility of that. That's why I have these independent investigators to come in.
And who are these
that's
independent investigators?
Fairfax Group Limited. And I would like, to hear what you have to say, and everyone has to say. I want to get to the bottom of it.
Would you therefore believe that because of all these allegations coming forward and more corroborating evidence proving that there's no doubt sexual harassment is running rampant in the World Wrestling Federation, that you are definitely going to come public and do something about it?
Why wouldn't I? If in fact that is the case, why wouldn't I do something about it? Why would I risk what we have?
Because you haven't done anything about it until it became public, because you thought it was
Because
under
I
the
had
water.
no knowledge of it.
I made knowledge of it to you when I was fired, and you just blew it off and let me go. I
You were
retained a
fired
lawyer.
because you were not very good. You were not a very good announcer. You could not. It's the only reason why you were fired. You could not make the transition from radio to television. That is the only reason why you were fired.
I would like to remind you, sir, that I have a 2-year contract. 2
You
years.
also have a clause in your contract that states, and as you know, you were hired on a trial basis.
I was not hired
You
on a
also
trial
have
basis.
You do not have a contract?
Mr. McMahon, I have a 2-year deal
in
with
that
your
contract,
firm.
you will note in a clause that states very clearly, and I have it outlined for all to see here today, that you can be fired almost at whim if, in fact, you're not doing a good job. You did a horrible job. That's the only reason why you were fired. That's it.
Maybe I should point out, first and foremost, that might be your inability to pick good talent.
It could be.
You had a national
Granted.
talent search, Vince McMahon.
Wow.
Oof.
Wow. And this was in
So they're talking about the whole
1990.
Reader Chatterton stuff, right? During this time?
I would assume that this is
the
why.
referee?
Yes, I assume that this is why this came up. Yes, yes. Which he's accused of. I mean, he paid her off, right? I think he's more or less he more or less admitted that one at this point.
And there's also the other publicly known one, the girl at the tanning salon,
Yes.
that he forced himself upon. So
But just to think,
yeah, I mean, a
man,
couple of publicly known incidents, and I mean, it's amazing. This clip is from what, 86? You said?
no, 92.
Oh,
So-
92. Okay, so I was like 15 years old. Like, it's just crazy that this has gone back so far.
Yeah.
You know,
What is that? 32 years or something? Yeah, 32 years.
probably even further. you know?
Probably even further. I just wanted to play that. You can go find it out find the whole clip yourself. There's he's on the show. I'm gonna have to watch this whole thing at some point.
Hey, I wonder if we could call in on that number and talk to him. Call back through time. Hey,
Yeah.
Vince, you're scum.
you're a piece of shit. But yeah, I kind of had to play that because it resurfaced today, and for good reason, obviously. And
Yeah, absolutely.
and it just it just shows you again how long it has been rampant. That being said, we moved from that to what happened with the Netflix deal, which did of course happen prior to this, but the Netflix deal is also just such a monumental shift for WWE and pro wrestling as a whole. You're looking at the deal, it sounds like they went with a lesser financial number up front for hopes that it will benefit the business long term later down the line. That they probably could have got a higher TV rights fee if they would have stayed on traditional cable, but decided that as cable was going down and streaming was going up, we're right at that point right now where I think Netflix reaches about the same amount of homes as like a USA network. So it makes sense with the trajectory of standard cable going down and Netflix going up that you would want to be on, the service that would be getting more eyes on your product, which would then move more merch and move more ticket sales and, move things with the pay-per-views and everything. I'll be interested to see how it pans out. I don't believe for a minute that you're going to get commercial free Raw. I don't think you can do commercial free Raw. I actually, at times, commercials can help, and it's not every time, but sometimes it feels like you do need a bit of a break here and there in between matches and all that type of stuff. I do think that there's too much money on the table, and with Netflix sort of changing its business model, which is what they are actively doing into more ad tiers, they make more money, they have found, I believe, on their ad-based tier than they do on their subscription-based tier. So they are obviously going to, use that, moving forward because it's all about the money. I think it is probably a good move for the WWE. I don't know about Netflix long-term if it will be, but obviously if they want to get into live streaming sports, this is a perfect in the box package ready to go. They don't have to do any production. It's there. It's proven. It has its fan base. It will do good numbers. I'm interested what it means for the archives eventually of the network for Peacock. When the deal comes up for the whole Peacock deal, I feel like it kind of has to go to Netflix. Like it would be Netflix will probably push a huge number and make a huge offer for that. And I will say it would be nice to have everything in one place, which it seems like they're doing internationally. And that's the biggest thing in play here is the international side of things, with Netflix being in all these different countries, that they can have everything again in one place through the PLEs, through the, it sounds like in, like, say, the UK, you're going to have Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and the PLEs and the archives all in one place. And that is appealing to me. That's definitely appealing.
Time to get a VPN.
Well, and that's what I was thinking about. I'm like, well, if that
Cheaper,
happens,
yeah.
can I cancel my Peacock and I can get I got the VPN, but I think you then have to purchase the UK Netflix. Like, you wouldn't be paying for, you can't like VPN with your current Netflix to the UK and get their Netflix. You have to buy their Netflix, VPN, then access it. But it still might end up being a way that a lot of us do it in next year, let's just say.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to tail on what you're saying, I think it was a fantastic deal for both. I think Netflix or the WWE is really thinking about the cord cutters and the cord nevers. I know a lot of people who have decided to get rid of cable completely and are never going back. And then I know people like my daughter, who's 25, who's like, I'm never getting cable. Why would I get cable? And so they gotta figure out a way to still reach this 18, this golden 18 to 35 demographic. And this is a good way to do it, because despite all the rage against Netflix and the hate they get, people still have Netflix. I mean, it's just,
Well, they still put out quality content. That's at the end of the day, that's it. Like,
and it's the home of Seinfeld. You can't beat that.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, and there, when it comes down to, if I'm at home and we're doing the, what the hell do we want to watch? If we want to watch a movie in particular type thing, Netflix is always the one that seems to deliver for me, like, whereas, hit or miss, like, I don't feel that, like, Max, for instance, updates enough. Like, Netflix is always pumping out new stuff. And you do have your originals, like your Stranger Things and what have you. And then there's, I think it's going to be a trend-setting movement for all of cable television. Like, if this proves to work, you will have shows like, for instance, what's a hugely popular show on its own right now? Well, okay, take South Park, for instance. They're already kind of proving it with their Paramount thing, right?
Yep.
If you want to see everything and all the extra long specials of South Park, you have to have Paramount. I think you could do it with even like an It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or shows with like huge built-in audiences. They will go and say, well, why do we need to be on this network? We can go and make our own deal, just like the WWE did, and it could potentially change the landscape of television, let alone wrestling, but television as a whole. So, and on top of that, I gotta think this is probably probably a good thing for AEW. Really, it's less competition on cable. They don't have to worry about TBS and TNT being like, wrestling's been doing good for us, but they're the bigger wrestling company, so we're not going to re-sign AEW, and we're going to try and get the rights to WWE. Like, that fear is gone. And it also validates, if AEW does want to move in the streaming direction later down the line, which is rumored to be the case, that this is a valid form and a valid way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Should we talk about something a little bit more fun?
Yes.
Let's switch
No more
gears.
Vince.
No more Vince. No more of that. No more of the business side of things. Let's talk about the one and only Royal Rumble. And I was fortunate enough to go this year with my brother. He flew down here to Orlando from North Carolina and stayed the night at my place. And then, we got up the next day and made the trek down to St. Petersburg, which, it's funny. All the advertising prior to the actual day of was Tampa, Florida, Tampa, Florida, Tampa, Florida. Well, if you don't know the area, St. Pete's another like almost hour from Tampa. Like if you're coming from downtown Tampa. So kind of interesting that they like, Tampa's the bigger city. So obviously like, it's like when they say they're in New York, but they're in New Jersey. It happens all the time, but that same type of vibe. But one thing that they definitely overlooked for people that were coming from all around, St. Pete is a kind of a small little island. And traffic wise, it's always kind of tough getting in and out of St. Pete. But this particular weekend for us, we had to go through, to get to St. Pete, we got to go through Tampa and go through downtown Tampa. Well, they have this thing in Tampa called Gasparilla, and it's a big festival where hundreds of thousands of people come. Like if you thought like, for instance, like 50,000 people coming for the Rumble was big. No, there's like triple that come for Gasparilla.
Oh,
like,
no.
and they did it on the same fucking weekend as the Royal Rumble. So, kind of an oversight there on somebody's part, that like whether that be the city's planning, whether that be WWE's planning, but ideally, I don't think WWE would have, really liked to have that sort of like competition. Maybe they did it because they thought, oh, people come here for this, they'll maybe stay, they'll come to Rumble, all that type of stuff. I don't think they needed that in the slightest. Those people were going to come regardless. But yes, it made getting there, what should be about a 2-hour drive was about 3.5, just to get into St. Pete. Now, thankfully we had, a friend of mine that I stayed with, which was really nice. So we got to at least not have to worry about driving all the way back home and dealing with that. But I can tell you, after I of course I got my whole Finn Balor getup on. I was fully finned out. I had my abs showing. I wink wink. I had my purple bandanas. Gave a couple purple bandanas away to some kids in the stadium too. I had a few extras, so I was making everybody around us part of the Judgment Day. And on our way, we Ubered. We left our car at my friend's house. And we Ubered in to the stadium. A nice Uber driver, and he's like, well, best of luck to you, because you're gonna have a real hard time getting an Uber after the show. Remember that for when I explain this later, because that's another part of the story. I will go ahead and say that St. Pete's infrastructure and the stadium itself of Tropicana were not ready for this. And I don't know if it was like, I can really blame St. Pete. I just don't think that they ever have this influx of people. They have
What is that stadium used for usually?
It's
Tropicana?
The Tropicana is the baseball stadium for the Tampa Bay Rays.
Okay.
Who get about 5,000 on a good night. There was close to 48,000 something, whatever, right? Yeah, they weren't ready for this. The concourses were small. It was hard to move. I've never been in a stadium also where, like say you're in section 110. Usually you would be next to 110 would be in between 109 and 111. Wouldn't that make sense? No, yeah. They have odd and even. So you think you're going to the right place, but no, it's the complete other side of the stadium. That was not well signposted. They were not doing a great job of telling people you're in the wrong line, or there was no signage for this entrance to get into the stadium. This is just for the floor seats. So a lot of people waited 30 minutes to get in the stadium, only to be told, nope, you got to go wait another line around the other side of the building. Awesome. Thank you. Concessions were a shit show. Merch was a shit show. It was just not well handled. No one was very helpful. Again, I just think it's the stadium just not being equipped for a show of that size. I also will go ahead and say from after this show, not only will I never set foot in the Tropicana Stadium again, That's a given. I will never watch another wrestling show at a baseball stadium.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why. They put the ring where the pitcher's mound is, because all of the seats, the way a baseball stadium is designed, it's designed to orientate all of the seats at a pitch towards the mound. So if you're where we were in a traditional stadium, those seats would be fine. But because of where we were, which was basically like the outfield, the other side, that meant that it's like triple the distance to the ring. We did not really see any of the action of the ring in the ring, looking at the actual physical ring. We watched everything on screens.
Oh, man.
The whole show. And there were floor seats. The way that the floor seats were even set up is that because, again, of the way a baseball stadium is organized, these floor seats came out like this. Sorry, it's hard to explain. Kind of like a V. And there were seats that basically, instead of looking at the ring, were looking at other seats.
Yeah, I saw a picture of that. So it was like
hard to
it was
explain.
like someone would be sitting right here looking forward, but the ring was like over here.
So you'd have to, your neck would have to
the
turn.
whole time you would have to be like
looking to the side. Yes, exactly. Very poor idea. I hope they get away from that.
Yeah, that didn't seem like a smart venue.
It was not. I think that there were some, like they always do with these things now, there were some local government incentives. They paid, WWE X amount of money to, host the Royal Rumble there, just like they do everywhere now, right? Cities have to kind of bid, if you will, to get the event. I think that's probably why it happened, but this would have been better suited at the Raymond James if they wanted to keep it in Tampa, or even if, honestly, they should have just done it here in Orlando where they did 33 and had, do it at our Citrus Bowl or Camping World Stadium, whatever they call it, this week.
I actually read Orlando bid more for the Rumble. And they still went with, maybe it was the influence of Hogan, brother.
He's
on the tourism board.
Well, and honestly, as we get into this, the show opens. It's a great transition because the show, of course, opens with a vignette sort of package from Hogan. Given everything this, week, I'm not sure that was the greatest optics. That seemed a little tone deaf.
Much better people you could choose, brother.
Yeah, I get that he's synonymous with the area. I do. I get all of that. But they could have figured something out, and probably not the greatest of choices, given, the scrutiny that they're going under right now with everything else. Might have been able to get away with it before it, but not after it. I would have pulled, if I'm head of production or if I'm Triple H on that one. Yeah, no, we're gonna scrap that. We gotta fast track something else real quick, And don't tell me they don't have enough guys that they could have pulled that off. Something.
I mean, Cody's a Tampa guy, kind of. So
yeah, I mean, it was, especially with the story that they ended up telling later down the road. But
yeah,
what were your thoughts about how it looked on TV? Number one, and then the show as a whole.
Yeah, so definitely noticed pretty quickly once it started how awkward everything kind of looked.
Mm-hmm.
You saw was the small entrance area and the long run to the ring, which I don't hate that for Rumbles, but I would have been especially pissed if I would have been a person who had bought a ticket and been like in the situation you were, or been 20 rows back on the floor.
And these were $250, I want to say, a piece. They were not cheap. They were not cheap tickets. They of course you can spend way more than that, but we probably could have spent 100 less and had as good of an experience.
Yeah, and so here's the thing: the Rumble is that's the one I eventually want to go to, because that's always been, ever since I was a kid, my favorite event.
Same with me and my brother. That's why we had to do it.
Yeah, it's just, even when I wasn't watching wrestling, I was still watching the Rumble every year because it's the damn Rumble.
Yeah.
So, my impressions, and we'll talk about more as we go through the matches. But
Mhm.
my impressions of the show overall is I was actually pretty happy. It was, for me, it was about a 7 out of 10 show. Um, you probably, you guys didn't get to hear Mcafee on commentary at the very beginning, but he was there and he was his usual energetic self. But there was definitely some issues because you could tell the guy hadn't watched
Yeah,
in months.
I
And
I definitely caught some of that. I definitely caught some of
and
that.
they had to coach him live on there. With that being said, hearing that sort of just like chaotic nature of the announce table compared to what we used to have with one person controlling
Mhm.
both commentators through earpieces, it's refreshing.
It's
Like,
refreshing. It
I,
makes it
I don't
feel a
mind that he
little bit
misses
more
so much.
live
Yeah,
and real. They don't have to be perfect. That's the thing.
yeah,
A good promo, you can trip on your words as long as the energy is there. Like a good
yeah.
promo, you can absolutely do that if you've got that feeling, that vibe, like
And
and
yeah.
and from the I have not watched start to finish. I've watched it in bits back on Peacock. I've watched it in bits. I've not sat down and watched the whole show. And I'm still working on the full men's rumble. But but um but overall I get what you're saying, and I definitely feel it was like you said, it it didn't it didn't look great on television, which was another reason I'm like not into these baseball stadiums hosting wrestling shows.
Mhm.
But I've seen a lot more people that have been down on the pay-per-view a lot more than I thought. Maybe it's like recency bias, maybe it's because I was there. But I think 7
And
out of 10 is a very accurate uh rating, if you will, of it. I think that's
and
a
for me, it all hinges on that women's rumble because I thought
right.
that I loved that women's
I
rumble.
thought it was great. I
The
thought it
men's
was great.
rumble I thought was boring and somewhat predictable, and the two matches in between were mid to good, or like upper level. But that women's rumble was just so strong,
I agree.
um, and it was booked so well,
Yep.
and people seemed really excited. The one problem, and I posted something about this in the group. The one problem with the current Rumble and the entrances is, the music just sucks.
Mhm.
Everyone's music is so similar, and there's a video of Seth Rollins watching the women's Rumble. And I don't know, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Ivy Nile comes out, and Seth is sitting there counting, and then he's like,
Who
"Okay,
is
who's
it?
this?" And he's like, "Oh
Oh
yeah,
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 that's
yeah,
that's who
yeah.
it is."
That
And
was
I
all
don't
of us.
expect them to know everybody, but that's the thing is they definitely have the budget for it. Let's get back to really setting these entrances.
License a few
You know,
songs here and there. Just,
yes,
just let's just have
works so well for AEW.
yeah,
Like it works
absolutely.
amazing.
And when they
Er-
do it right, they knock it out of the park. Like there's even with I forget who the new group of guys that are doing the music. But like for instance, like EO Sky's got a banger. It's instantly recognizable. Like there's a few definitely like good ones. I mean, even Seth's at the moment, right? At least I don't really like it, but it's recognizable. Like
Mhm.
instantly who that is. And yeah, they're just so similar is 100% the point. I think on TV as well, there's something about the way that dome was, and uh, there was a lot of delayed reaction because of how far, like for instance, we were away because of that seating arrangement. That
Right.
like a lot of the reactions did come later, like audibly than the
Like a
way they were
wave.
actually like a wave. 100%. That's and I did definitely think that the crowd was indeed better live than it came across on TV. I think that
Mhm.
it seemed very subdued, and it was at points. It definitely got like, maybe it's that fatigue or whatever, but when it was going, the crowd was phenomenal when they were going. But there were definitely a lot of ups and downs, and I don't think that it translated quite as well on TV as it did in the stadium because the energy was there. There was not a lackluster crowd. I definitely don't want people to think that.
Yeah, no, and I didn't necessarily think so. Yeah, the acoustics of something like that, and it's just not meant for all those people to be on the field.
No,
Because I
no.
just don't understand how. Yeah, it just I sometimes wish the WWE would take chances and book places like Red Rocks, places that
Oh
have just like
man.
fantastic acoustics, and let's do
Oh,
a Shakespeare in the Round type thing. Why not?
that'd be
You know.
awesome. You
I
prove you
mean, and
can
that's
do
the
it at
thing.
Daly's place. You've proven that,
Yeah.
and that would doing Red Rocks would be like Daly's place on crack. Like just
Oh, it would be amazing.
oh, it'd be
It would be
amazing.
amazing. Don't know if it's ever going to happen,
I
but
mean, even
I mean that's the thing. They need to take chances, but baseball fields are just they're just baseball fields and arena or not arenas and football stadiums are just sometimes they work against you.
I
And
want to
I think that's
say,
what came across on television, unfortunately.
yeah,
It points,
I
yeah.
think you're right, and I what I would say is that they need to take a play out of AEW's playbook and start booking, like, instead of going for the grandiose, we're gonna get 100,000 people in Dallas there, right? It's no, what would be better is if we booked like a 30,000 seat place, like an Arthur Ashe, for instance. Like that event in an Arthur Ashe would have been perfect for it, right? Like I don't know how many of those stadiums really exist, like tennis type stadiums, but they're perfect for wrestling. If you can find them, do them, because maybe smaller college arenas or that type of situation, or college stadiums, rather than like the huge, like big NFL ones. Tone it down. Instead of like the 80,000 seater, do the 30,000 seater, do the 40,000, like somewhere in that range, because you're going to sell out. It's going to sound great. Yeah, you're not going to make as much money, but it's going to be it's going to be better for everybody that does go. And you know what? You can charge a little bit more for the ticket prices if you do that too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you make it up.
absolutely.
You make it up. It's you just don't have as many, like, you don't have as much disappointment. When me and my brother saw our seats, we were both just kind of like, like, we're still going to make the best of this. We're still going to have a great time, but very much like, damn, that's not what it really looked like on the map. Like we thought we'd be, in a much better viewing situation. But again, we still had a great time. I'm glad you brought up the women's rumble, because there were so many highlights of it, to be honest with you.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I'll say that it was, I mean, at first when Natalya came out, and I'm just like, oh God, really? Like, we're starting with her at number one, but it was obviously for a reason, because it made Naomi's pop at number two that stand out that much more and be that much more important. And of course, Tampa and Orlando aren't that far. There was definitely a hometown girl type vibe, coming back.
Yeah, you could hear it.
And absolutely, like, I thought she looked great. I think that her stock has risen tremendously since she left and her run as Trinity. I would dare say her stock and improvement since leaving WWE is far greater than Sasha Banks. Now, not to say that she's a bigger star than Sasha Banks. Would be silly. But it definitely, it was evident that, oh, wow, they can really do a lot with Naomi this time around. And I'm interested to see what they do. Do you have an idea? I mean, because I really have.
Well, I mean, she's been doing great on Impact, and I mean, she's got more or less the same character, even kind of entrance music that's just kind of a little bit the same, but she's been invigorated and refreshed there, and unfortunately, circling back to thinking about one of the reasons why she probably left. Her and Sasha throwing their belts on Johnny Laurinaitis' desk and
Yeah.
saying they're out of there. She's probably happy to be back too, and definitely her stock not only as a performer but as a person has raised. I mean, me personally, I when her and Sasha walked out, my respect level for them just went through the roof, because man, that's how you take a stand,
It
and they took a stand.
it was, but they did come across for a bit. They did come across as, or maybe Sasha in particular, kind of entitled, ego, kind of whiny. So there was, I cannot lie, there was a period there when
Yeah.
I kind of, all right, you go on your way. Like, but in retrospect, I 100% agree with you. And
Yeah.
and I do feel that yes, I think she's going to come back and do great things. I see her as a top level challenger now for somebody. You know, I
For
100%.
sure.
I think maybe the way to
Just right in the
go.
main event.
I think the way to go at the moment might be a eventual, because I feel like Bailey will end up with that belt sooner rather sometime this year. I think that she will end up with that belt, and I think a program with her and Bailey would be a great way to go.
I would agree.
I can see, whew, I mean, a couple easy, quick feuds. I mean, a thing with Chelsea Green at the moment might work, or like there's no shortage right now of women that they can pair her up with, and I think she's gonna have some great matches with.
Absolutely agreed. For sure.
The biggest one for me that was like the big shocker, although of course I did read it online beforehand, but the Jordan Grace appearance was phenomenal. And
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't read it, so that was a surprise for me.
yeah, my
And I was
my
so
brother
happy.
spoiled it for me. But
Oh,
when it came, it was still like I'd sort of forgotten. So it was still like I still got that like like that that feeling. But I'll be honest, man. I'm not gonna say she looked better than every other woman in that Rumble, but she certainly looked on par, and she
they
looked
treated her well.
and she looked better than most of them in that Rumble. Just the strength that she has, like they did that spot with just the suplex, like the a vertical suplex spot where they held it, and it was her and Bianca. Was it who was it that did that spot?
I think it was Bianca.
Was it
yeah.
Bianca? But she just looked so much more solid than whoever it was next to her. Whether
Dude.
and we know Bianca's like crazy strong. That's not knocking Bianca, but Jordan, like, just nothing, like it was absolutely nothing.
Dude, she is stacked. And I watch Impact every week, and I love her on Impact. Very good show, amazing women's division. Definitely because of her too. A couple interesting things I read is that Naomi didn't know that she was going to be number
Mhm.
3, and Jordan Grace kept texting her saying, "Hey, I'm excited to see you in the Rumble." Just joking around, and then too, going back to Pat McAfee not knowing what's going on, he
Mhm.
sees her in the back, not understanding that she's the TNA champion, and is like, "That's our champion?" And he called her like Stacked. He's like, "Stacked is our champion."
Oh, jeez.
and it's just so funny. But it sounded like the crowd there really popped for her,
They
and I was
did.
really happy about that. And I loved the moment with her and Naomi hugging in the ring, and then getting down to business. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
great.
no, she is. I mean, you've got to think that WWE has their eyes on her and would love to bring her across, and you got to think that also that might be a possibility down the line.
Yeah, for sure.
I
They
would
definitely set up programs for her. So
absolutely they did, and it was so interesting to see. I mean, I know they did it last year with Mickey James, but this year it was so much more TNA forward than it was in last year, and it does make you wonder if they are open to some form of business dealings, and Triple H kind of said as much, right, in the press conference that that they kind of are, and that these things they're definitely not as far from possibilities as they once were with Vince in charge. So
no more forbidden doors.
yeah, exactly, and that's great. Now, that being said, and we'll get to that later, but I would have liked an equal version of that on the men's side of the Rumble as well.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been cool. Like, I'm not saying you necessarily have to have Moose or like, but they
Okada.
right, but they could have done something with somebody like an Eddie Edwards, or there's people there that absolutely would have been cool. Like, throw the Motor City Machine Guns in there or something, or like that. It would have been cool to kind of see that mirrored on the other side in the men's. Obviously, didn't really need it as much as the women's. I'll say that there are so many like of these newer NXT women that were in the Rumble as well. That, I mean, good for them. They get their chance. They get their spot. I was impressed with how much the crowd was into some of these, chicks. Like, just, geez, like, people are watching NXT.
Yeah, they're watching NXT.
People
I guess.
are really people are really watching. So that was just a shocker to me. I don't think Becky had a great showing in the Rumble. I thought she kind of did a whole lot of nothing. Nia Jax had a tremendous showing in the Rumble, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but I think I'm coming around on this run. Like, I think that she's been kind of killing it lately. Really, like, I mean, I don't want her as a champion necessarily, but I'm really happy that she's kind of found her footing, and this, whatever it is, this new lease on life she's got, I'm into it. Like, I think that there's a lot that they can work with there. I'm all about it. Did you have the same feeling or no?
100% no. 100% disagree with you. Not a Nia Jax fan.
Still no.
I don't like how she works. She's not even my favorite big girl on the roster. I like Piper. I'm a Piper person.
Yeah.
And I thought Piper had a good showing.
She did.
With that being said, if Nia's point in this run is to build up Jade to just destroy her, then I am all on board on this Nia run.
Yeah.
because I am a Jade Cargill mark, and I was so happy to see her come out. And
to
that
get
was my
that
spot of the show
response.
was her throwing Nia out. I just loved it.
Oh, I loved it. We all did, and I think that the response, it's kind of unproven at this point, right? With an AEW, apart from Cody, which is kind of a different animal, but it kind of unproven with this AEW character coming across to WWE. How is it going to translate? Are they going to know who this person is? The majority of the audience.
They treated it.
They handled this well. It was good to kind of like the way they built her in the last couple months of like showing her on TV, not like, but keeping her kind of like hidden, in plain sight. And yeah, like the response was tremendous. I thought she looked like $1 million. Still think she
looks like a star.
Still think she's got a lot. Still think she's green. I still think there's a lot that she probably needs to learn in the ring. And just, but that's going to come with time. They just, and there's no way with the presentation they've given her that she's not going to be main roster. They can't fart around with putting her in NXT for a year. She's too big of a deal, and you're gonna ruin some of that aura if she does a year in NXT. Strike where the iron's hot. She's gonna have to learn on the fly, and more. But I don't think that's a problem.
I don't either.
Especially in WWE, you don't need to be the best wrestler. Nope. You don't.
That's right.
If you've got the character, if you've got the aura, which she's got that in spades, you can be a top level, performer. And I think that's what they realize, and I think that's hopefully what they do with her, is that they just keep moving forward, and pushing her towards the top. I think we can see, obviously not this Mania, but WrestleMania 41. I think you can see her, either going to challenge for a title or going into Mania as a champion. Like I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all.
Oh, absolutely. And my WrestleMania head booking right now is going to be Jade versus Gunther, because that's just going to be amazing.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think they need to move forward with her and continue treating her as they have been. She's a great presence backstage and in the ring in terms of her personality. Yeah, still a little green, but as long as they accentuate the good and kind of hide the bad and work on that, I think they could do it. And this is a different WWE. This is a different era. You could see in all the production elements, and just in every bit of aspect of it, they're treating everything different. And I don't feel like this is like a Daniel Bryan, Damian Sandow, Wade Barrett thing of the past, where they have this amazing character and they just don't understand how to run it. I think we're past that now. God, I mean, Pete Dunne's back, so
yeah, I don't know if it lasts forever. I don't know if we'll just become accustomed to this new WWE.
Yeah, let's hope.
But but for now, let's enjoy it because it's a breath of fresh air that we've needed for so long
I know
that it makes it enjoyable to watch again. Just one more thing on the Women's Rumble. Notable mention was the Kairi Sane spot on the outside. Like, I'm still not sure if she was meant to. I think she was like meant to get eliminated there. I don't think she was meant to get back in, but for a while there, I was like, was that a botch? Like, did she because she did the whole it's the Spider-Man thing I'm talking about, where she was just kind of like
she was.
Yeah.
Kari's our new Kofi spot.
Pretty
So,
much.
Since Kofi's too old to do the spots now, he's passed the torch.
and talk about, like, I always liked Kairi Sane, but this, like, I don't know, she's got something new with her character and her new look. I mean, she's cute as can be. Like
the umbrella
on top of it. The umbrella is great. She needs to do the Jack Gallagher bit with the umbrella.
Oh my god!
I missed the Jack Gallagher bit.
Jack Gallagher.
Well, we don't mention him because he was a sex pest.
No, yeah.
But yeah, like I really enjoyed her, her spots in the Rumble too. So overall, really good match. I'm happy.
Best women's Rumble yet, because
100%.
Like 4 of these.
Yeah,
5 of these so far, and yeah, this was definitely. And I was really happy with Bayley winning.
Me too.
That was really good.
They've got to turn her face, right? They've got to turn her face. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, she was too over at this. Like, she's still playing the heel line, but I think that she was just too over on the night, and like the way that she's been building and her story, and in particular, like it's there. Like, just go ahead and do it, and you can have her, turn on Damage Control, or Damage Control can oust her and she can chat. I imagine that's what they're going to do. And then she'll challenge EO for the title. And realistically, I don't even know if she has to win it, but I don't know, but I like EO. I don't know if this run is done much. Like, it's kind of been a bit meh to me. So having maybe a few matches with her and Bayley is probably the way to go, and it would help elevate her down the road as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Were you as surprised as me that the next matchup was the Fatal 4-Way?
100%.
No one had that on the cards.
It was going to be third, and I still don't quite understand why they had done it the way they did, because it almost, I mean, not that any of us had any inkling that anyone other than Roman was going to win, but it just hammers that point home.
It 100% did for those of us in the stadium, for sure. Like, watching, we we're just like, well, okay, yeah, now Roman's. That was my piss break match. That was like, after I was there, I stayed for the whole like intros, and I did the, you got to acknowledge him. You do. But after that, I'm like, once the bell rung, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to run to the bathroom. And everyone else had the same idea, because the bathrooms were still packed, and everyone had that same idea.
I would have thought they would have stayed in for LA Knight's entrance at least.
I don't have many thoughts on this match. Like, it was a TV match.
It was a placeholder, and I almost feel like they could have put a women's championship match or something else there, and I would have rather had that.
I would have rather seen a Rhea match or something in that place. Like, I honestly kind of would have. I see the reasons for doing it. Roman did need a clean victory. I mean, it was a clean victory at the end of the day.
No DQs. I mean,
right, but he hasn't had one in a while. But it also sets up for when Cody eventually does beat Roman. It does out. You got to build Roman back up to actually being a real threat again. So that makes sense. I feel bad for AJ having to take the pin. I guess out of all of them, it makes the most sense. I don't know what the hell. I don't think this did anything for LA Knight. I think he's kind of like, oh, no, you've missed your chance with him. Like, you can probably have him get a mid-card belt, but he's never going to be top guy. Like, not after this. Like, I think that ship has sailed. And yeah, like it was a match. I'm so surprised to see so many people raving about this one on online. Like, for the most of us in the stadium, I can tell you right now, we're kind of just pretty lukewarm on the whole thing. It was fine. You know, it was a WWE match. It was a Roman WWE match. And kind of the next match was better with Logan KO, but it wasn't great either. I mean, it was all right.
Right.
Like I did kind of like the finish. That was a decent schmoz finish. Like that actually, it works for the characters. It definitely works for Logan, and it definitely works for KO too. But and yeah, it was a good match, and it had some great spots. I think I arguably would put that match above the 4-way.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But not but not by much. You know, about there. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I don't know where they go with this Logan KO thing, because I don't think it's over.
Yeah, I didn't love the build to it either. Like, it was okay, but it wasn't anything that got me excited. And you know me, I love Logan Paul, fuck Logan Paul guy. Like I love and hate this guy, and I think he's good for business. And you need to have him walking in with the belt in WrestleMania. I'm sorry, did I hit you? I'm sorry.
Aw, poor doggy.
But you definitely need to have him walking in with the belt at WrestleMania. And I don't know if this was the best stop on the way there. I think both these guys could have pulled out something better. I have a feeling that we're gonna have another match out of them. Maybe something,
A
like
sticked up match somehow,
cage
or
or
like
a
yeah,
street fight or
yeah.
something. And that, I suppose, maybe we could get a little better, do a little better with. But yeah, I wasn't crazy about this match. It was better than the 4-way, but it was what it was. Still, like I said, like medium out of 10. And it's that women's rumble that just made the show for me.
Yeah, and you know, the men's rumble was I understand that why you would have found it, some people would have found it quite, boring at parts, but it did have some great moments. It was slow in parts. Some highlights for me, I think this could really finally be Andrade's chance at having a good run somewhere. He felt like a big deal on the night. I hope they they obviously tried to do, they're going to do something with him and Santos, like, straight off the bat. I hope that this doesn't, like, take forever, because
Sounds like he's going to SmackDown.
yeah, so maybe that's further down the line, but I'm not entirely sure what you do with him straight away, but I think that you need to treat him like a big deal, and I think that you need to put him in some good programs and book him well. I get tired of all of these, like, oh, they're Hispanic, they've got to either be in a group or have feuds with another Hispanic guy. Oh, it's that's form another stable with Bobby Lashley and some random other black guys, like, it's always that. Not that the Street Profits are random other black guys, but you know what I mean. It's always
right.
It's always that, and it's, whilst being, like, borderline a little, like, racist, but on top of that, it's just boring. It's like, it's so stereotypical, and it's like, no, let's do something more with these characters. Like, I don't know what you do with Andrade, but I was happy to see him, and I thought he was presented quite well. I thought Gunther was another star of the match, like he always is in every match that he's ever in. He always kind of outshines everyone. He looked fantastic. Trying to think of, like, really the other highlights, apart from, of course, like, where it gets to in the end.
Braun Breaker had a good showing.
Yes, which is being, it sounds like that was the Brock spot, that was, supposedly going to be what Brock Lesnar was doing, which is crazy to think about that they were going to have Brock eliminated by Dom
And then a Dom and Brock program.
and do a Dom and Brock program, which, you know
Uh,
what? Fuck yeah. You know, that
Yeah,
would have
sure.
actually, like, kudos on kudos on Brock for signing off on that. Like, if that's, you know, hate to say kudos on Brock with all the given details, but you know what I mean. And I wonder if they still go forward with that. I wonder if they still do kind of, it feels like Braun is 100% going to be, you know, main roster bound. It sounds like he's going to be on SmackDown. So maybe not like the Dom Braun program, because I don't know that that really works, but he executed everything else that Brock would have done perfectly. Like, and maybe you give him a bit of that treatment. Maybe you give him that sort of like unbeatable type guy treatment, like, you know, moving forward, kind of that monster, you know, because I think he's ready for it. I think that time is now. So yeah, that was a good choice for a fill-in. And then really for me it came down to the you know, the final two with, you know, Cody and Punk, and boy, oh boy, I can honestly say that crowd was way more Cody than Punk. I don't know how it came across on TV, but it was way more Cody than it was Punk. And regardless if they liked Punk or not, no one was accepting. Nope, fuck that. Cody has to win this. Cody has to win this. We were willing it into existence in the stadium, especially once I wanted Gunther to win, and he was my prediction, but I wanted Gunther to win because I just thought it would have been an more interesting story, a little less predictable, and I thought it would have just elevated him that much further. But once he was out, it had to be Cody, and I think a lot of other people felt the same way. It had to be, and there was not a chance in hell that we wanted it to be Punk. And you know, maybe it was the injury that he incurred earlier on in the match from Drew with his, you know, of course, tricep that we learned about later. But he looked like shit. He was gassed as fuck. He looked like shit. Looked like he'd forgotten how to wrestle. His conditioning wasn't there. And I was standing up because in those moments, because that match became the match within the match, right? Towards the end. And there were lulls in that match between the match where the crowd got very, very quiet. And I was standing up and I was telling everybody in my section, you see, this man right here cannot wrestle. He is gassed. You people love this man. Why do you love this man? Oh, he's a good promo. Look at him. Yeah, well, he can't do his fucking job. He sucks. He sucks. I was just going off, and my brother was dying laughing while I was going on about this. But you know what? Most of those people were like, yeah, you know what? He's right. He's right. And of course, I had no influence on him, but the crowd was certainly, I'm not going to say they were anti-Punk, but they were pro-Cody. And that made me feel a lot better about the state of things moving forward, especially with the uncertainties of Punk coming back, and oh my God, is Cody not going to really finish the story? And oh my God, is like The Rock going to come step in? And, you know, it all seemed to just like, okay, everything's going to be fine. Like the crowd is behind the right story and the right person, and they can still like Punk and they can still cheer for him against Rollins or Drew or whoever. But no, they're still so firmly behind Cody, which is so impressive after he had to keep this whole thing going since basically last Rumble. And he's done it, you know, here we're here now. Like, no one thought, I mean, I was skeptical, man, how do you do this for a year and keep this going after the loss at Mania?
Too.
He's done it. And more power to him. He looked like the face of the company. He talks like the face of the company. He's everything you want. Like, why the hell would you not move forward with him. And maybe the plan was after Cody wins the belt, maybe the plan was to have, a Punk feud or what have you. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about that right away.
No, I'm with you. I mean, Cody is the package.
Yeah.
He looks the part. He talks the part. He absolutely plays the part. And every much as I was saying, Jade Cargill is, that of the women's side,
Yep.
or getting to be that way. I mean, you could just see Cody's face on the truck. You could see his face like in advertisements. You could see the guy
Doing your
on
Today Show
doing your
appearances
Today Show. Yeah,
or
exactly. You could see kids like wanting to, looking up to this guy. So he's exactly what they needed.
and
I hated that this oh, there you go.
and I was one of those kids that bought the shirt that night.
I hate that this Roman thing has gone on for so long because it's just been so trivial, and it's ruined years and years of potential new stars being created. But if this is going to be the end of the story, then honestly, this is the best goddamn way you could finish it.
Yes, absolutely. I want to just switch gears, and I got a little video from after the Rumble that didn't play on air as after the show went off air. I'll just go ahead and play that real quick. And it's just kind of, I missed the very beginning of it, but we'll go ahead and just play this right here because it's Cody's kind of after Rumble little speech. It's pretty short, but yeah, I thought
Is this where you were sitting, or?
This is not far from where I was sitting. This is pretty much just right around the corner from it.
WrestleMania 39. But we are going to WrestleMania.
Oh shit! I didn't do the share thing. Hang on one second. Oh yeah, I did. I just didn't do it over here. One second, people. My bad. There we go. Yeah, back in a second. Here we go.
But we are going to WrestleMania 40. It's been a long night. All we people here. An amazing show, an amazing crew, an amazing production. When I come to Tampa, when I come to St. Pete, sometimes I try and stay and keep to myself. And the reason is, this is Dusty territory. So I thank you very much for making it Cody territory. I love you guys all so much. Have a great night. And I'll see you next time. Great night, guys. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to play that because I thought it was just like we kind of talked about earlier. It's just a real nice touch that this was Dusty's territory, and now we've made it Cody territory. And it's stuff like
amazing.
that make him so perfect as the face of the company because he thinks about these things, and he, it means stuff. It means a lot to him. You can tell how much it means to him. And eventually the Dusty stick might get a little old, but for now, until he finishes the story, that's what he can use, and he can always use it until he finishes the story. He's free to use it as much as he wants.
Imagine that. The best thing he ever did was left the WWE, and then the best thing he ever did was went back to the WWE.
Absolutely.
And I mean, he couldn't have timed this better for himself. I mean, even with that injury occurring the way it did, and it kind of pushing everything off, timing just worked out beautifully for this man.
Yeah,
So,
no, 100%. One of the things I failed to mention that does need a mention is it was great to see Carmelo Hayes and Trick in the Rumble as well. And
were they pumping in Tricks saying, or were people actually saying that? People were actually saying it. Okay,
I was blown away.
I was amazed at how many people knew that.
There were a couple of things that I caught that they were definitely pumping in. Like I've got a pretty decent ear being an audio guy. Like, what's real, what's not. And you can tell a little easier, obviously. Oh, shit. Thank you something on Twitch, whoever that was. But yes, no, that was 100%. Like like everything, I'm sure they sweeten it a little bit, right? But no, that the reaction that dude got was insane. It goes back to
Good for him.
I guess it goes back to what we were saying. Like, people are watching NXT more than we realize, I suppose, because they knew Trick, they liked Trick, they wanted Trick. And
They whooped that Trick.
yep, and honestly, yeah, like it was one of the biggest like reactions of the night. So I'd be surprised if they don't try and get him up. And I mean, I think Hayes is coming up to the main roster. He's basically on the main roster now, right? Like, so I think like he's kind of a done deal. And I think you might as well at this point, instead of finishing like that whole Trick Hayes storyline that they've got going on in NXT, why not just kind of take it and like save it and do it all on the main roster? Like that, it's there. Like it's not like you don't know. Like, obviously the fans know the story and know Trick, and yeah, I think kind of feel bad for Carmelo, because I think he's incredibly talented and it got a main event star written all over him as well. But hey, two's better than one, and now you got two that you can play with on the same level.
Yep, agreed.
Overall though, fantastic show for me. I mean, not the greatest Rumble of all time. The atmosphere was worth it. Again, never doing a baseball stadium ever again. But I do have to mention one quick anecdote before we go to break. So if you remember earlier on, I told you that the Uber driver on the way to the stadium was telling us how
I've been waiting for this.
How it was going to be a problem for us to get Ubers back home. And it was all because, again, of Gasparilla. Gasparilla was, Gasparilla is a big drinking festival. The whole concept is that the pirates invade Tampa Bay and people dress as pirates, and there's parades and everybody gets sloshed, and it's a parade. It's like a pirate takeover of Tampa and all that. So all the Ubers were being taken on the other side of the bridge every time. Like we did the thing I've done millions of times at events. You get out of the crowd and you walk a few blocks away in the city, and then usually you're like, okay, it'll be a 15-minute wait. You get an Uber, no big deal. Nope, that was not happening this time. Estimated time, hour and a half. Estimated time, 2 hours. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, it was everyone had the same idea. All up and down the streets, there are people with their phones, like, they're dead. It's been a long night. Like, people are just like, everyone's on their phone trying to get Ubers. Now, a lot of people had the idea that me and my brother had. Okay, well then let's just wait an hour or so. Things will die down. We'll find a bar. We'll grab a beer. We'll wait for this all to blow over, and then, we'll go and we'll get an Uber then. No, everybody had that idea because all the bars were so packed you couldn't even get in them to be able to like get a seat or chill out or get a beer or whatever. So it's like, well, that's kind of out of it. Now, my friends live on St. Pete, the island, but I want to say it was about 5 miles away, 4 or 5 miles. A little longer than you want to walk at that time of night, let's be real. And so we just we keep like edging back like a little closer as we're moving towards there. It's been a good, the show was over, I want to say, what time did that show end?
It was done by like 9:55-ish my time.
So 12-ish.
Yeah, almost 12 your time.
Yeah, it was like 12-ish, I want to say. By the time we got out the building, all that, it was around midnight. For a good hour and a half, we try and get Ubers, like walking around, and it's a failed attempt. We keep edging closer and closer back. Thankfully, we stumble upon one of those, we're like, we need like one of those scooter things, like let's get a couple of those scooters. And me and my brother, we've had a fair amount to drink this night. And, so we're like, okay, we don't really want the scooter, but we can get the bikes. We found the bikes, right? Like the sit down e-bike type thing. Like, so at least you could sit down, whatever. So we get those. It takes us like forever to figure out the app and get that all going. Meanwhile, our phones are both dying. And mine notoriously has a bad battery, and I'm like, oh shit, like this is gonna be a problem in a little bit. We finally get the scooter. Great. Hop on the thing. My kickstand on my scooter does not want to retract correctly into the thing. So it keeps just like bouncing up and down on all the streets. My brother's giggling behind me as we're driving these things. And it's just going click, 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 as we're flying around downtown St. Pete, cutting across traffic we should not be cutting across. Like we probably almost died a few times. And we get all the way back. No problem. We get all the way back to my friend's house. By the way, I don't know where the hell I am. So they don't put like a mount on these things where you can put your phone and you can follow the GPS back to where you're trying to go. Yeah, so I'm holding it with one hand, like kind of shit face, holding it with one hand, trying to drive this thing around places that I don't know. Get all the way back to my friend's house where then we're like, okay, great, we're finally here. Now, we're in Orlando, it's never a problem because people just leave these things everywhere on the sidewalks. Like there's no rules against it or whatever. We get off the thing and we're like trying to like, okay, how do we end the ride? How do we end the ride? There's no option to end the ride. It says that you have to take it to a registered location. It's one of these like corrals for everything. Well, shit. We finally figured, or it's $120 fine. $120. So we're like, well, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. My phone dies while the clock is still running. So I have to go back inside. I have to charge my phone for 10 minutes. I get it up to 4%. My brother's phone's still working. He figures out, okay, this is where we need to drop it off. It's 1.25 miles away. So we have to hop back on. I grab a couple of beers for the road because fuck it. If I've got to walk back, we're going to have a couple beers on the way back. Yeah, right. And we have to, still have to drive it a fucking 1.25 miles, end the ride, and walk all the way back to my friend's house. By the time we got in, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. We're almost right on the dot. Lord. 3 o'clock after getting out of the event at 12. So, St. Pete, go fuck yourself with that system. That wouldn't have, would have been nice if you would have kind of told us that before we got on the scooters. Honestly, we could have just walked it in less time and just got, you know what I mean? We could have got there in less time had we just walked from the get-go. But here we are. Another reason.
Dude, I took those scooters around DC. I didn't realize that they don't like going into some of the national monument areas. And I had one, I was going into the MLK monument and it just stops dead on a dime. Oh, shit. And I had no idea why. And so then it was like, it told me like you have to take it back to this authorized area, and I just had to like drag it, like, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, yeah. But it is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, it's just another reason that they don't need to be doing huge WWE or probably any event in that town or at that stadium because the infrastructure was not equipped for it. And that is that. We should take a quick break. Yep. We'll talk a little bit about the Raw after the Rumble when we come back because there's plenty to talk about there because we get to gloat about CM Punk a little bit. And I also want to bring up a couple things, of course, within the world of AEW and further things in the world of wrestling. Let's see here. We'll go ahead and do that. I was going to say something else, but I forgot. But it can wait until we come back from break. Thank you guys for listening to the first. That's what I was going to mention. I just wanted to give a quick shout out. I did meet a great new friend who's hopped in the group. I love it. Some of these wrestling events, right? You can end up making friends. And I want to give a shout out to Robert. Robert sat next to me and my brother and was a great Rumble partner. We were hugging each other when Cody Rhodes won in the end. So a big shout out to him.
Shout out to Robert.
Yeah, and hopefully he's in the group, and hopefully he said he's going to check out the podcast. So hopefully he hears this, and hopefully we can grab a beer sometime soon. We'll we'll throw on some tunes here for a little bit. If you're on the Twitch, just stay tuned. We'll be back in not too long, probably about 10 minutes or so. Give us 10:15, and then we'll be back. And then, of course, if you're listening on the podcast, you can just stay tuned. This will be all edited out. Of course, twitch.tv/ONRS Live. If you do ever want to check us out live, onowrestling.com and facebook.com/groups/ONOWrestling. Give us, what do we like to say when we get out of here for the first segment? Jay, give us a little bit of a woo, woo! welcome to the second segment of the Oh No Wrestling podcast. Hang on here. I gotta adjust one or two things. Gotta get the cameras all functioning correctly. Guys, I know that was a long first segment, so we will be, kind of breezing through this second portion of the show. Bear with us while we get everything going. But Jay, are you there?
I am here.
Awesome.
And it's amazing for a change. Like, there's just not a ton to talk about on the AEW side. So
no, I know.
It'll be a naturally short second segment anyways.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, it's usually the other way around when we do these shows. We're usually talking way more AEW than WWE, but slightly different this evening because we're even going to start back up with WWE.
Yeah.
We absolutely have to address some of the stuff that went on this week's Raw.
Yep.
So rumor coming out, of course, after the Royal Rumble was that CM Punk got injured again. And then we found out that those reports were indeed true. It is a torn tricep, is what is being reported. Sounds like it may have come off the bone. And in an opening promo on Raw, he said that his dream was to main event WrestleMania when he was a kid, and that dream might never be fulfilled. And to say that he's a fan of the Cubs and there's always next year. I don't know if there's next year for CM Punk, if I'm being honest with you, Jay, because it seems like the clock is really running on one CM Punk, huh?
Yeah, he can't seem to wrestle without getting injured, and that presents a real problem. Although I will say one thing. As much as I'm a fuck Punk guy these days, that was a hell of a pro.
It was.
And
It was.
it highlights exactly why the guy has the draw that he has. I mean, he's down to earth, blue collar Phil. It just
Well, except
just,
he isn't. Except he isn't. I mean, because in his first,
except he isn't.
Except he isn't, because in his first promo when he came back to WWE, he was like, "I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money." So he's not really that blue collar, is he?
Yeah, but in this.
But that's right. He's a hypocrite. So yeah, everything he says that comes out of his mouth is hypocritical. So all par for the course.
But look, as a promo itself, I thought it was a fine promo. But I agree with you. I think it's kind of time to hang it up. Although let's be honest here. And call this what it was. This was a result of Drew McIntyre praying for it.
Yes.
And I think we need to understand that Drew's power is he's got a lot of power with the big guy upstairs.
We've been praying for Drew. And Drew subsequently has been praying for this to happen. So
exactly.
Dude, it's so funny.
I love that Drew promo. That was great.
Dude,
too.
amazing.
This is my favorite version of Drew McIntyre so far.
There's no other version of Drew that even remotely compares to this. Like, it is so good. And honestly, if Punk, clearly isn't going to make it for Mania, I know they've had a ton of matches, but let's do Drew Seth again, because now with this, like, we haven't seen. Yeah, this version of Drew was sort of like, it came into its fruition during that last feud with Seth, but now it's like it's there. It's set. It wasn't set in stone. It wasn't like really truly like formalized or I don't know, firmed up. Now that it's there, I want to see it, and I think this would be a great chance to give Drew that Mania moment in front of the fans. Like,
this is Drew's story. This is the other story that needs to be finished.
Yeah.
Because Drew's WrestleMania win was the awkward, nobody in the stadium, with the what they used to call that weird monitor thing they had going on.
Thunderdome.
Yeah, the Thunderdome. Oh my God.
Which really weird.
This is I think fans. I think a lot of fans like yourself and myself who really felt for Drew during that time and wanted to see this moment for him. I think a lot of us are going to be pulling for him over Seth if
Yeah.
that's where they go. And I'm honestly excited by that main event.
Mm.
I hope they do it.
I hope they do it. I think they will. It seems like they're setting that up. Talk about genius, kind of like, I mean, prior, I gotta give WWE credit here. They were already setting up outs for if Seth can't compete at Mania when they did the whole Cody face off with Punk, right? Like they were already kind of trying to like, oh, what if? And now like this has happened, and now it seems like hopefully Seth's gonna be okay for Mania, and Punk isn't. They've already like very instantly got a couple of guys that you can throw in that picture. They did it with the Gunther thing, right? With Seth. They like you could throw Gunther and Seth as a match like in there. I wouldn't be opposed to that either. I feel like you can have Sammy in there as well. Like that's also a very valid one. But Drew seems like the one for me that they should do now. Whew. Drew gets the win. Priest cashes in and steals it.
Ooh, I don't love it.
I can see him
because
doing
I
it.
want Drew to have that moment for a while.
But he can have the
but
moment, but he can have the moment
story-wise-
without having the run.
Story-wise, that would make a shitload of sense. How much longer does Damian Priest have? He's got to cash it in within the next 5 months, 4 months now.
I don't know when Money in the Bank is. I mean, it's after Mania, and it's probably not. It's probably not the next pay-per-view. I would assume it's the one after that. So
Okay, yeah,
you're
right.
he's got time. You know, like he can absolutely do it at Mania, and I think it would be so perfect for the story to rob Drew again, and it can go back into like, you know, all the stuff that they were sort of telling with. Remember when Drew was sort of tiptoeing around the Judgment Day and all that, like. Maybe Priest breaks out of the Judgment Day and Drew joins the Judgment Day. And like, you can almost have that as a part of it after the fact as well. So I think that's the way they're going to go. I hope it's the way they're going to go. And I still think that gives you Drew, cause he can always win it back from Priest, like down the road.
Sure. Yeah.
So I feel like you can still get him his moment. You can still get the briefcase off Priest. You can still give Priest a bit of a run with the belt, a short one, albeit that, but then you can have Drew pick it back up and take it through probably the end of the year, or at least the SummerSlam or something like that.
Yeah, it's smart because they've already set it up. So
and then
there's
something else that they were doing as well with this whole thing is that they did the Sammy Drew match last night, not last night, but on Monday Night Raw, and they were very adamant constantly that Sami Zayn has never beaten Drew McIntyre in a singles match. So Sammy would be perfect to take it off Drew when that time comes, and that's a perfect belt for Sammy to hold.
That is a belt he could hold, yeah.
There you go. I just booked your next few months of that title.
Hey,
guys.
we'll see if it comes to fruition.
And all of that is better than CM Punk beating Seth, by the way. All of that is better in storyline. What would you do then with CM Punk beating Seth? Oh, we're going to have him just beat Drew. Oh, we're going to have him beat Sammy.
Here we go with the summer of Punk again.
Yeah, exactly. My shit, way better than your shit, you CM Punk douchebag fans. Sorry, it's
Kyle.
just the truth. He's fragile. He's an egotistical, hypocritical douchebag. And he needs to probably hang up his boots. One funny thing that I heard, because of course he hadn't had a TV match until the Royal Rumble.
10 years.
But he had 2 matches in WWE on house shows. Both of them were against Dominic Mysterio, which makes Dominic Mysterio the safest worker in wrestling because CM Punk didn't get hurt wrestling Dominic and he gets hurt with everybody else.
I mean, just another
where's
the
lie
for Dom? Yeah.
Where's the lie?
Yep, that's right.
But yeah, Judgment Day strikes
No
again.
one's ever died working against Dom either. I mean, no one's ever been set on fire working against Dom. He is a very safe worker. I agree.
Exactly. But you know, great promos from both of them. Really enjoyed the way that show opened. But later on in the show, we of course had Cody Rhodes address the audience, and he was about to basically say, time to go to WrestleMania and time to face. Boom, Seth Rollins music hits. Seth Rollins comes to the ring and tells Cody that he shouldn't be going after the Hollywood title, that he should be going after the work rate title, that Dusty would have wanted him to go after this one and not that one. It was a good promo by Seth. I didn't buy it.
I don't buy that.
I understand what they're doing. They're trying to, like, you know,
They do that every year.
cast
you
a
know.
little bit of doubt, and it kind of like extends when, you know, the time when it finally does happen, that, you know, it'd probably be on this week's SmackDown, honestly, that Cody clears that up, because he's already said he's going to be on SmackDown. Maybe you do it for another week or two longer, but I like that they cast a little bit of doubt on the whole thing, but no, it has to be Roman. It has to be, and they did a decent job of trying to sell it, but no one, including myself, was buying it, and that crowd was very much no. So, I think they'll listen to the audience, even if they were actually seriously considering it. I don't think they were, but if there was any, doubt in their minds, that's probably gone away now. The only thing that could get in the way of that right now is The Rock, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't even know if that's going to happen now, because I
Mm-mm.
mean, it seems like the seeds were planted, and then when we might have gotten some payoff on that, it's just kind of gone again, and I don't know if it has anything to do with him, being the literal head of the table now on the executive board, and then maybe Ava Johnson being GM at NXT is the consolation prize. I don't know.
I
Um,
I think they're
Not much
trying
of a
to I think they're trying to do something big. Rock has said a couple of times something about how he wants to do something that's never been done, especially with him coming back and actually wrestling. I think they will build a pay-per-view around The Rock and Roman that isn't WrestleMania. Now, this might be in Saudi Arabia. This might be in another foreign country. But I also think it would be a great way if they did it at the end of the year, or if the beginning of next year, to make it the first international pay-per-view on Netflix.
I mean, that's not a bad call. I could see that happening for sure.
I don't think that the Rock has had his moments. He doesn't need the WrestleMania moment. Like,
No.
if he has a very big moment on a very momentous occasion with a huge crowd, that's surely got to satisfy that itch, right?
Yeah, you think so. And I mean, even if he was in the WrestleMania main event, he'd likely be the one taking the pin. I mean,
Exactly.
because at this point,
Well, he
they'd
should be
almost, I
either
could see them
way.
just,
It
yeah,
should be either way. Like,
yeah.
no matter
So
how
I
it
don't know.
goes down. Like, yeah. I don't know. I feel like that, I feel like we got probably, Drew Seth moving forward. I feel like we got Cody Roman moving forward. If it's not Drew Seth, again, I would like the Gunther thing, I don't mind that, especially because they did set it up, and you can do double champion type thing, like I don't
Yeah.
see that you necessarily have to relinquish that belt. That being said, on this week's Raw, also, we still have a continuation of this Imperium New Day type feud. And Gunther beat Kofi in a match that had way too many commercial breaks. But that's only because they did like the first hour commercial free, and sometimes that then like they have to then stack the commercials later on, and that always sucks. But it does lead me to think, oh shit, what if Big E's healthier than we think? And I know I shouldn't be thinking about this and shouldn't be thinking of Big E, but Big E coming back and taking the belt off Gunther actually kind of rules.
You're invoking the name of the biggest of the meatiest men, and that's man, I would love it more than anything else. I don't want to get my hopes up,
No, I
because it
know
would
we can't with
it'd
that
be
one.
amazing. But I hope so. And he's definitely the type of guy who would lead people astray, who would throw red herrings out on his tweets. So I don't put it past him. And I
Absolutely
really
not.
be that's where we're going. Man, that would just be incredible.
Oh, dude, that's got Mania
Um,
written all over it.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. That'd be an insane match.
I mean,
Um,
I dare I
and
dare say
because I
that
don't see where else this New Day program goes with Imperium. So
no, same.
so you're really, it's really not a bad idea.
Just
It's just,
proving
yeah, it
that he's
depends on,
healthy. He just has to be
yeah,
healthy, like that's first and foremost. I dare say that Gunther Big E is probably a bigger match at WrestleMania than Seth Drew.
bigger than Seth Punk too.
I think so. I mean, not for a
Yeah,
lot of people, but it is for me. It
yeah, for
definitely
me
is for
too. It is.
me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now,
That would be great.
Now, we talked about Priest earlier, and we talked about the Judgment Day, and we've also been, I think both of us, enjoying the hell out of this R-Truth Judgment
Mhm.
Day stuff. I was really surprised that they more or less just stomped that in the ground on Monday as well. Like, well, more ways than one.
I mean, they've kicked him out of the group a few times. So
yeah, but this seems like a little bit more definitive this time.
yeah,
Like,
seems like a return. We're getting a return of the awesome truth, which it is, as yeah, it's an okay team, I guess, to get back together. But I just would have liked to have had this maybe a month longer. It was
same.
really
It was
it's
just
really been getting good.
and
So
the amount of money they were pulling in on merch and stuff for it too. I'm just surprised they did end it as soon as they did. I think that though it adds to my previous speculation. If you're gonna do the Judgment Day tag team feud for the belts at Mania, against the Awesome Truth, you have the Awesome Truth actually win those belts. Now Damian Priest is pissed at Finn and the rest of the Judgment Day. Gonna go out there on my own. I'm gonna cash in the briefcase. He can now split from the Judgment Day because he's not got those belts. Good way to get that problem solved as well.
and then you have R-Truth, even though he just won the belts with the Miz, still thinking he's in Judgment
Oh
Day,
yeah,
and that Judgment Day is the tag
and
team
the Miz
champion.
is trying to convince him like the whole time, and
Oh man,
there's a lot you can do that, and let's be real. Mania does need those light-hearted, almost comedy matches in there too.
for sure.
It's part of what makes Mania Mania. You don't need to have like the work rate match every single match. In fact, it's important that you don't. For casual fans, that's the perfect match. That is because people know the Miz. People will find, even if they don't know who R-Truth is, they will find him hilarious. The Judgment Day are interesting to look at and have a cool presentation. All of that fits in that perfect mold for that, perfect kind of comedy main event.
Yeah, I agree.
Not main event, but you know what I mean.
Throwing Bad Bunny as a special ref, and hey, baby, you got a soup going.
Dude, you're not wrong. I forgot about that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you definitely could still be doing something with that.
They got to be doing something with Bunny this WrestleMania, I'm sure. Every WrestleMania.
I mean, if you're not gonna, keep doing the Logan Paul KO thing, you could easily do Logan Paul Bad Bunny. I've
That would
said
be
that.
fun.
I've
I would
said
enjoy
that.
that, yeah.
I've said that from the beginning. That's such a spectacle that you would want to see. Now, neither one of them you'd really not want to beat either one of them. That's the problem with that one. But I could see him trying to find a way around it.
I could see Logan Paul like taking, like being okay with taking the pin because he seems to respect the business and the story and all that. But I
Yeah.
mean, Bad Bunny too does. So I don't know. Who
Yeah.
knows?
No.
I mean, hey, we're fantasy booking. Who knows?
And we know and we know he's tight, with Damian as well, so that kind of fits in with that whole deal and like the whole Puerto Rico thing, and then you've got even the Logan Paul lives in Puerto Rico, and you got that whole thing you can play off of. So there is something there that you can absolutely do. We should probably though switch over to a little bit of AEW chat. It's been an interesting couple of weeks with AEW as well, because they have one of the things I definitely want to talk about is that the rankings are back, supposedly, that Tony Khan has listened to the fans. I think based upon the success of the, what was it called, the Continental Classic, right?
Continental Classic.
Yep, the C2. I think it's a smart move. I think it obviously does present challenges for booking. I think that, but I think it will force the hand of more logical storytelling. And I think that we're already kind of seeing it right now in the case of Hangman Page. He's picking up wins. He's getting back into that picture. He's coming off of two very, very, big losses against Swerve. Now it seems like they're setting up a three-way, one would assume, with Swerve, Hangman, and Joe for Joe's title. I kind of think they swerve people on this, pun intended, and I think that Hangman takes it. I think Swerve's gonna have Joe beat, and somehow Hangman's gonna steal the pin and get his second championship.
Sorry about that. I totally agree. had some my daughter just came home and the dogs had to notify me. So but yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I like the program they're doing now with the dealer's choice stuff. I heard a rumor that tonight that was translating to Swerve versus RVD. So
which will be fun.
Yeah.
We
haven't seen it before, so I like it. So yeah.
Their styles could be very interesting to watch together, for sure. Like that's
and I like RVD in that spot. And
Me
kind
too.
of like the bring him back legend for, once a quarter for a match,
he
is the
fits.
foil.
He fits in AEW for that more than he would.
He does.
More than what he looked so uncomfortable when they've done those legends things in WWE. RVD always looked like the one out of place. Like he just no, that's an ECW guy. You know what I mean? Like I know he had his runs in WWE, but for me, he's always good. He was an ECW guy, and that's where his real best work probably was. And the style of AEW just kind of fits that style of his style. Like he was an AEW guy before there was an AEW in a lot of ways, it's so I do appreciate that. And like, he seems to me like RVD seems like he, for a while there, I thought he might be a bit of a scumbag in a lot of ways, but I think he's just matured a little bit with grace. And he's absolutely like, kind of like, oh man, he's just a good guy. Like he just likes to smoke weed. He's got his porn star wife or whatever, looking like but I think he's just a good dude. Like a lot of those
ECW guys, like Lance Storm too, just has become so respected.
Oh, I'm a Lance Storm mark, actually.
Me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's always interesting hearing his takes on modern,
very level-headed
modern wrestling. Well, again, it's logical. Like if I know he works for TNA, but if ever his contract's up and Tony Khan's looking for a guy to help with behind the scenes and help with storylines and help with like what's the term in film that I'm thinking of here, where you want to make sure that like scenes match up with each other. There's
like an editor. But like
you know what I'm talking about. You're the film guy.
I know. It's been 25 years since I got the degree. I like a cinematographer. I mean, it's making sure all the mise en scenes, everything is matching up scene to scene, and also being the guy too who you could entrust as being like the pro wrestling like Bible.
Absolutely,
like the guy knows it all.
He does.
Going back all the way to the very beginning, like he can just tell you everything about everything. So
he's got a memory. He's just got an incredible memory, at the end of the day.
I mean, they do have a few guys like that, but he, his skills as like a booker and a behind the scenes guy, they're just good pickup for anybody. And I think it's one of the reasons why TNA has such a good product week to week. I see it every time. I enjoy it. It's an easy Thursday,
No, absolutely. I will say that with all that's been going on positively in AEW, and there are a lot of positives, and we'll get to them here, in due course. But there are some negatives, and a lot of those right now revolve around their ticket sales and their numbers. I hate to get onto the boring side of things of the business back again, but man, oh man, we knew Collision was going to be bad. but we didn't think it was going to be this bad. I mean, obviously went up against the Rumble, but a 0.06 in the demo. Oh, God damn it. Get out of here. People are they're gifting things, which is good.
Hey, thank you for the gifts.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Gifting all the subs and stuff. We appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. You take over the show. I got to figure out I can turn these off. I know I can turn them off. But no, we appreciate that. But no, like 8.06 in that demo. Jesus Christ.
That is not good. That is not a good number. And yeah, they really got to work on something, because you see almost every Wednesday or Saturday, if you're a person who unfortunately goes through Wrestle Twitter like I do, you see all the pictures of the hard cam side just completely empty.
Yeah.
And even when you're a fan there at the live show, I love the live experience of live wrestling, but man, that does get on you. It just, you're sitting there staring at a ring and then empty seats, and it's just like, sometimes it knocks your enthusiasm and your
it does
motivation to have fun. So they got to work on something, and this could be a little bit of what we talked about earlier with the WWE going to smaller venues. I would I see zero issue with running smaller venues, and they're already running, like the old ECW, the hall they ran in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
God dang it, this should come to my mind. But stuff like that, they could run absolutely banger shows where you get 100% of the crowd participation, people who are there and excited. And but instead we're getting these medium arenas that are half filled, or not even half, like a quarter filled.
Hammerstein Ballroom, I think, is the ECW arena, wouldn't it? They did
Hammerstein Ballroom.
Yeah,
but
Ballroom.
I mean, but then translating that into TV numbers, it also just translates to the enthusiasm about the TV product. Nobody's watching wrestling on Saturdays unless it's a PLV. Most people are out doing things.
Absolutely, it was a bad call. It was a bad call. They need to just get rid of Rampage and throw. They need to get rid of Rampage and throw Collision on the Friday if they can do it in the new TV deal. Like, there's no reason for that third show. And Fridays is a better, Collision at 10 o'clock is better than on a Friday. In my opinion, is better than Collision at 8 o'clock on a Saturday. That's I think the brass tacks. The scariest thing tonight, they're in a 2,000 seater, and they're still at 1,700 and something tickets as far as this morning. Like, those are bad numbers, man. Those are really, really.
Where are they at tonight?
Dude, I knew you were gonna ask that, and I've already.
Or was that last week?
No, that was last week. I do not know where they're at this week, but again, they're just not hitting the right markets. They're also they need to hit markets further away from each other. And and their ticket pricing strategy is very, very poor. They need a lower scale ticket that, like, when they first started, that you could get a $20, $30, $20, $25 upper bowl ticket. They don't sell those anymore. The cheapest you can ever get a ticket is about $50. And that's tough to bring a family of four to, right? Like, that's I mean, hell, you got a kid, like it's tough to do that for a night out. And I think that's part of the problem, and part of what's turned a lot of people off. And maybe it's part of the strategy, because they do end up getting a lot of decent, like, last minute walk up numbers, it seems, because they know very last minute they're going to put a bunch of tickets on sale, and they're going to move, like, a lot of tickets at a very low price, very last minute. But that's really shitty when you're someone that's excited about an event, and AEW comes to your town, and you get good seats, and you spend good money on it. I was talking to people that had, on the last Dynamite show, me and my friend Scotty, I think we paid around $75 for our tickets, which isn't terrible. But there were people that got them that day or the day before for $35, and they're sitting right next to me. Now, what's the incentive for me to support your company and buy a ticket early? There is none. So people know this by this point, and are waiting to the last minute because they want to save $60-$70 on tickets because they know it's not going to sell out.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, like if I think you have to solve that by having initial ticket prices be priced accordingly, and then you sell more of them, and then last minute, then you can do your fire sale or whatever. But don't insult. You're insulting like your actual real fans when you do that shit. Like, and that does leave a bad taste in my mouth. And I can see, and I've seen this a lot with people that were very into AEW in the early stages that have they've kind of gone off it, because of some of the business practices. And it's things like this. It's the way they handled Brawl Out and all the backstage drama and and it is the Tony Khan tweets and it is the pettiness and it is all this stuff. Drop it. Like, I understand you want to be this competitor brand, but you need to go back to when you were calling yourselves the alternative brand.
Yeah.
That's what you want to be. You're not going to ever beat them. You're not. Not unless the whole company goes completely bankrupt are you ever going to beat the WWE in North American professional wrestling. It is literally an impossibility. So you have to be an alternative and stop copying their shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to have other wrestlers from WWE. That's fine. It's okay to bring in an Edge. It's okay to bring in some of these people. I don't see it as that's like how TNA. I don't see it as that. But when you also then copy like old storylines from WWE and you present your product exactly like it, no. The whole reason we liked you in the first place is because you were different. Go back to that.
Yep.
The rankings are at least a sign of something like that to come. And then, fingers crossed, we're in for a decent 2024, especially when injuries start clearing out, as we start getting a few people back. Now, Kenny might be a very long time. That one seems like we don't even need to be speculating about anywhere, probably until the very end of this year at the earliest. And that's fingers crossed that he ever gets in a ring again. But guys like Adam Cole will be back, right? Guys like MJF will be back. Guys like, I'm blanking on others, but there are certainly more people that are going to be coming back into the fold. And that's a positive. We will eventually have to pay off the MJF Adam Cole stuff. I mean, that's not going anywhere. It's weird to put it on such a hiatus, but it has to be done because of the injuries. I do think that they're not there yet, but they are turning a corner with the women's division.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like something now. Now we're starting to see interesting matchups with not just new people, but people that they've built.
Yep.
Thunder Rosa coming back is going to be a big one. I think that if done right, she can have a run that was that first run was supposed to be.
Yep.
I don't know what it is. There's a different demeanor. There's a little bit of everything different about her since she's returned. And I think she looks healthier and like she's got a cooler look too. I like all of that. But there's something about her demeanor that's different. She doesn't look like an angry bitch that doesn't want to be there anymore. It's the simplest way to put it. She looks like she's enjoying what she's doing, and that goes a long fucking way.
Serena Deeb coming back is
Serena
a huge
Deeb
one too.
is a huge one. The way they're huge one. She needs the TBS title. 100%. She needs a run with that TBS title, and she needs to do that Serena Deeb challenge from time to time.
The professor thing.
Yeah. She needs to do that. Julia Hart's a failed experiment. I'm sorry, she's not there yet. She's too young. She needs to mature. She's just not there yet for me. Not believable. Can't do it. Sky Blue could care less. Think there's a future there, but it's not there yet. Dorana Purrazzo. Okay, I understand that she's a very good professional wrestler. She's mid-card, good hand. She's not the star you're looking for. The star they got, though, is the one that's underneath their biggest female star, Toni Storm. Toni Storm's the biggest female star, and what they are building in Mariah May is great. They are doing
I agree.
They are doing her right, and she can go. And she's believable, and she's got something about her that's definitely going to influence the next year or 2 or 3 of AEW's women's division.
Yeah.
Where the fuck is Britt?
Yeah, where is Britt?
Oh,
That is a good question.
Where the fuck is Britt? Are they saving her? And that was the one of the biggest other names I was saying about the injuries of people coming back. Jamie Hayter. Are they saving her for Jamie Hayter?
Jamie Hayter, yeah.
Like that's like the only thing I was thinking about. But Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm seems like the perfect, like, the way to go.
That seems like a good program right there.
That's Wembley.
Yeah,
That's Wembley.
I'm excited that there's so many different prospects there at the top right now, because it's not something we generally have with AEW. Even though most of them are just missing in action right now, it does give some hope to what they could do with this title. Because I'm loving Toni Storm. I'm loving her riding out on Luther, and it's like it's all great.
She keeps finding ways to make it still work, and slight tweaks and slight adjustments, and to me, it's all her. I mean, well, she's talking about punching chicks in the box the other day, like.
Oh,
I love it.
Only her.
And not to mention, I mean, they're bringing in Sasha. They're bringing in Mercedes. They have to be at this point. Like, you
think so? Yeah.
You would think at this point. I'd be very surprised if she pops back. I mean, in WWE, even though if I was her, that's where I would go.
Yeah.
But I think there is like an ego thing there, and I think she's wants to command that money, and I think she knows that AEW could really, really use a huge female name like that, and she will make a difference, and she will move the needle and all that, right? So it is the right move. But I don't think she's like the savior of the whole thing, but she's someone that can help really get it going.
Yeah.
And she still probably ends up in WWE in 2 years. So like that's the way I look at her, because she needs to rebuild her stock in a way very, very badly. In an in-ring perspective, she needs to rebuild that very badly before she really can probably command the money she was apparently trying to ask, which was Charlotte Flair money in WWE. Say what you will about Charlotte Flair, but that bitch can go, and has always been able to go. And I don't know that we've seen that Sasha can in the last 2 years, right?
So I don't know, but the question also becomes too, is it worth it for the WWE to get the 4 horsewomen back together? Because I mean, even thinking about that in like a WrestleMania event, down the road, as a 4-way, finally getting that would be a draw for them.
It would. I don't think that's the way they would do it, and I don't think that's the way they should do it. The way that they should probably do that is that should be a united front against the new kids.
Yeah.
And they need to do something like that, a Survivor Series or something like that, where it's the 4 horsewomen versus Tiffany Stratton, the new crop, whatever the new crop is. Like, what is it? Lyra Valkyrie.
Hell, you could throw Jade in there too.
Yeah. I mean, the Jade
versus Charlotte.
Exactly. The Jade Charlotte face off is I mean, that's there you go right there.
Looking in a mirror right there, those two.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the AEW side, going back to the women's side, I agree with you. I don't know if Mercedes Moné would provide that much to them, but I think she would be a valuable piece nonetheless.
Now, she's obviously going to come in as a face. She's not a good face.
No.
She's terrible as a face, honestly. Her best work, and in my opinion, her only good work has always been as a heel. So I think that transition needs to be quick. It's going to have to be they botched it with her, but I don't know if it was AEW's fault, but the whole, like, what they did with Paige. Paige came in as a face, but they knew very quickly she had to turn. Like, again, another one, not good at being, and I think in my mind, somehow, those two were going to be aligned. Because you got to do something with her, too.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think they're spending a lot of money on, Saraya, that they're not getting their return on investment out of. If you pair her with Sasha, and I don't think Sasha's the greatest promo. Saraya's a great promo. I think Saraya needs to be her manager that gets involved on occasion.
Yeah, I could see that.
As heels.
I mean, they definitely have the history too, so I could see that. Hell, that even though she's already kind of doing it with the Outcasts, but them forming like the outs. See, it's just that Outcast story again. but anyways, yeah, I could see the two of them together for sure.
Yep, I think that's the
a
way.
Good,
I think
booking.
that's the way they go. See, this is what you come here for. My Owen's fantasy booking. What do you think about Mox and Jeff Hardy? Because that's a match that I really don't think I want to see. I don't really care about it, and it's leaving all of Jeff's like personal, the whole artist thing. It's leaving that aside and all his troubles. He's just even if he was 100% healthy and functioning at his best, his style is dated now because we see it so often that it's not explosive and unique and cool. All the guys that like watched you growing up are doing that, but doing it like way better and way more inventive than you. Let's not take away what he did and what, how innovative he was at the time, but that to me doesn't do anything for me anymore. I need more than that. I do.
He's that friend who never left the late 90s,
It's sad but true.
Still listens to Evanescence.
It's sad but true.
But I mean that, and yeah, I agree with you. There's not much that he does that I haven't seen before. Really, him and Matt are just enhancement talent to me at this point.
100%, and
they're just there to get everyone else over.
And maybe give some advice backstage, I guess, which is terrible. Like, hey man,
I wouldn't take it from Jeff.
This is how you get away with a DUI, man. This is a lot of that. No, I mean, I'm sure on the night, which is tonight. I mean, the show's actually started now, so we got to wrap this up so we can watch that, of course.
Oh, that's right.
Not really, because there's things called DVRs, but I think it'll be a decent match. Like Mox will get something out of him. I mean, Mox will win, and that's kind of the problem too with AEW in a lot of ways, and WWE does it as well. But you never really get surprise wins on TVs ever with AEW. Like you can look at every Dynamite card and be like, yep, he wins, she wins, blah, blah, blah. And I said she twice. That's ridiculous. There's only ever one women's match on Dynamite. But my point is that it's like there might be one you're like, oh, okay, maybe, but they usually don't matter anyway, right? Yeah. Like so that's another thing that they need to do. They need to kind of like give you some, surprises every once in a while, because it's too predictable. And even the pay-per-views, I dare say, like you've usually got maybe 2-3 matches, but the rest of them are like, yep, I could go down the line. And like, we're usually very good on our, AEW predictions on all of us, like on both sides. They, apart from 2 or 3 matches, right? Like, and that's always the thing. Before we wrap things up completely, I do have to get your opinions on this latest rendition of the Young Bucks character, Matthew and Nicholas.
You know what? We've been through the really flashy, multicolored clothes phase. I think this middle-aged country club members, like Young Bucks with the mustaches, sure, I'm fine. And honestly, for Sting's last match, they're going to get a good match out of him, and that's all that matters. So I'm
Yeah.
digging the Bucks.
No, I really enjoy what they're doing right now. It's so tongue in cheek, that I think it's hilarious. What they're what they're essentially doing, in my mind, is that they're being they're the GM dickhead GM character, except they're EVPs. They own the company, but they're only doing it for their matches, which to me is hilarious. As long as they stay in that lane and they don't turn it into like GMs and making matches for other people that make no sense, that they have no involvement in. Like, I might accept one or two if it's like with the Elite or something like that, but as long as they stay with it where it's just like basically just they helping themselves and like making their own matches to build their records, or
Right.
like against like jobber teams and stuff like that. Like, that to me is the way that you play this, and it sort of fulfills a little bit of the EV, or like the EVP character, the GM type character, without it being over obnoxious. But there's like, they need to run this. They need to be heels. Like, the Young Bucks as heels are another one, are far superior. It's their best form. Yeah. So at the moment, like, I want to see how they wrestle as these characters, because they're the type that will change their styles, that will do things in the ring to further enhance the character.
Yep.
And that's what I'm interested in seeing with the Bucks at the moment. I will reserve judgment for if it's good or not until I see that, I think. But I think they're on the right track. And they've done it so many times, and they've kind of like they've subtly reinvented themselves slowly over the years. And this fits 100%, but it always fits 100% with them as people and their characters. And they're doing exactly that with this. And yeah, I go back and forth on how they do this Darby Sting Bucks thing. I can make arguments for both of them winning, but I think Sting is going to be one of the rare ones that doesn't, because they don't want him to. They don't need him to at this point.
Oh, interesting. I don't think he goes out on his back.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't think he goes out on his back. I don't think he does.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I think he's a rarity. I think he will essentially have one of the Bucks beat himself, but make it so that Darby gets the win for them. Darby will get the pin.
I can see that, yeah.
But Sting will have done the work to get the pin. And I think the whole thing is designed in the end to get Darby even one more step further than he is. I can't believe I'm saying this. Darby will have to win the world championship at some point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I hated Darby for the longest time. I found him, I forget when it was, because I liked him at first. And then he went through and it wasn't ever his work, of course, but he went through a very bland period. Sting has 100% helped him. That was one of those things that's like, it took time and guidance and working together, but I think there are very, very real life things that, what is his name? What's his name? Sting? What's Sting's real name? Gordon Lightfoot. No, that's the other Sting. There are very real things that Steve
Borden.
Borden, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Steve Borden. Gordon or Borden. And yeah, Sting. But yes, I think that there are very real things that he's learned from Steve, and that Steve has imparted on him. And I think there are parts of the business that you have to see in action to be taught how they work. And Darby has I know his size is always going to be, something that people look at, but I think we're kind of even past that now. We've crossed that bridge into he's kind of just an undeniable, star. And if his promos can get just a little bit better, and they have improved drastically. If his promos can just get a little better, I think he can do it.
Yeah,
That's me.
for sure.
I don't know.
I mean, and they certainly have merchandising reasons to want to get behind Darby too. Whenever I go to AEW shows, I always see a lot of little kids, boys and girls, dressed up as
Yeah.
Darby. So he's definitely, they definitely. I think what Sting has helped him with is with his presence in
Yep.
the ring.
Yep.
Meaning that you've got to kind of transcend yourself and become this mysterious character, which Sting absolutely, like the Undertaker, absolutely
It's
nailed.
the acting. It's the acting parts of wrestling, and it's all that stuff. And it's all that stuff that a lot of the indie guys don't learn, and you always hear about it, right? It's the space, it's the time between the moves, it's the space between the moves. It's that stuff, I think, that we can kind of see as fans of this thing, but to emulate and actually do, you sort of just have to keep doing it and feel. It's like a feeling they must have, I would imagine. I mean, I used to play in a band, and there were times where you'd have to, the vibe wasn't really there. And even though you knew the song, like something was thrown off, and you have to think about like chord change, la la la, right? Whatever it is, right? But then there were other times where the vibe is completely clicking, and you almost go to a different place, and you're just moving from thing to thing, and it's sort of just happening, and that new harmony or that melody comes out, or that, like, oh, I didn't think to ever do like that chord, like after that, and you're kind of like, it's like this very like free flowing feeling. I think that's the difference between like wrestlers that know the moves and are good wrestlers and wrestlers that can just kind of feel it. I would imagine it's that similar vibe, that it's just kind of, that it's like, it's when improv goes right, and everything is just clicking. It's like that, like that's the dance that has to happen. It is 100% dancing, right? It's that fluidity. It's all those. I'm sorry, I'm going real artistic here, I guess, on this, but that's the sort of stuff that we will never truly know, but also you have to almost learn through osmosis, and have to almost like get it, like that's the you can't teach that type thing. It kind of has to like grow, and it kind of comes from other people, and you pull different things, and then, oh wow, you feel the vibe. And I'm sure sometimes then you feel the vibe with this person, but not this person. And the Young Bucks clearly know how to feel the vibe of a match. And that's why, again, this works.
And you're right. And it's one of those things that we may never know, but it's something that we can identify, and we know when we see it. You could sit there and just go back in time and think of the guys who had that. Roddy Piper comes to mind. The guy who just had that fucking flow of his character all the time.
Yeah.
Never skipped a beat. Was so good at improving. I actually just watched his appearance on Bill Maher from like 25 years ago with Sting too, where they all laid into with Bobby Heenan too, all laid into Bill Maher, because he, got off on the whole wrestling is fake tangent thing.
Yeah.
But the guy just there's people like that. Steve Austin's another one.
I'd say like in ring too, like that happens, and you have pairings of like Shawn and Brett, who like hated each other. They both were secure in their characters. Like they definitely were both great characters. You can argue at times Brett wasn't the best actor, but I just think that that's like, he's just dry. Like that's just kind of Brett, right? Like I think that gets mistaken. But in the ring, they were always, of course, professionals, apart from that one time. But they were always like safe with each other, at least, and they were definitely like, they knew how to dance with each other. Like they knew how to absolutely work each other in those movements. And like that's the sort of stuff that I think it's almost another reason why an AEW needed to exist, because if you're just working on these indies, yeah, you can make decent money as a wrestler, and yeah, you might have like worked with that person before, but having like a more consistent sort of environment lets you play within the parameters that you know, and gives you more confidence maybe to try something and get that, it's like, I would imagine being on the indies is like the freelance gigs I do. It's like a lot of those times it feels like your first day at school every time you're on each new gig. We don't have that with a company like an AEW if you work enough there, right? Because you know how it flows, and it's like there's a comfortability there that it needs to be there for you to allow yourself to, get that fluid, get that vibe, get all those things we're talking about. And yeah, I could talk about this for days, but we probably shouldn't.
That's a good rant, though.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm 100% with you, though, on your thoughts. Yeah, for sure.
It's and that's what I can see in Darby, and you see it with certain performers over time. I think this past year, Garcia is there. Like Garcia has it figured out like a lot more. Now I know like it comes with a stupid dancing gimmick at the moment, but that's not forever and just him. Like it's like that dancing gimmick is that first little bit and that glimpse of him that you're going to see the real part come out later. Like that's like an Eddie Guerrero transformation in a lot of ways, right? Like you saw, you saw all that type of stuff until you realize that, oh, holy shit. Like it's the guy right here, like it happened before your eyes. I think they've got a lot of great, prospects. And that's why, for all the bad ticket sales and, and the bad ratings on TV, AEW will survive. There is the money, of course, to support it, but there's also the roster to support it that are coming up. Those guys that maybe took a little longer than they would have hoped, right? Like, yeah, they had to, get through some humps, and there have been some major roadblocks in the way. But when you've got guys like Danielson guiding the ship, you're in a good place, because that to me right there was one of the, if not the smartest things that Tony Khan ever did, was put Danielson and give him some whatever that sort of, authority that he has. I would give him more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
he told his dad, if everything ever happens to me, let Danielson run the company.
Right.
It's just, that's how much respect that guy has. And, for sure, give him more power.
Yeah.
Don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I guarantee you he was all behind getting the rankings back. I think that's like part of like him probably going to Tony, see, they're saying it. Oh, look at the Twitter thing. They're saying it. I guarantee that was part of it. And it's so funny that, of course, it's rumored that Punk was the guy to get rid of the rankings, that he convinced Tony Khan to get rid of them. And it makes perfect sense. Because
Punk couldn't be in the rankings because he never fucking wrestles.
Thank you. It makes, that's exactly my point. I also think subtly what he said on Raw's promo this past week with his injury promo, I also think that there was a subtle rankings dig on that because of all those rumors. Remember what he said? What he said? He said, I don't win all the time. In fact, I lose quite a lot. That was a way of CM Punk in a veiled way addressing that whole thing, because he probably knows that probably got to him, that people did not like that about him, that he took away something of AEW's that they liked.
He's always got to have that last word.
So that, and it's dude, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I've had a White Claw or two too many. But I think that that's actually a great way to send you off for the evening. Some food for thought, for instance. Guys, it's been an absolute treat hanging out with
great show.
Yeah, and it's been fun talking with my boy Jay here. Hopefully we can get Matthew back on soon when he's not too busy with work. That guy always working,
Always
man.
traveling.
Always working. He's just always working. I tell him all the time. I'm like, you need to stop working. I guarantee you, though, he has probably not missed a single show of ours or any wrestling. That's almost a guarantee. If he makes time for anything, he will make time for his wrestling. Oh man, but dude, thank you so much for for hanging out.
Enjoyed hearing about your Rumble experience.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. Just guys out there, be weary of any wrestling show in a baseball stadium. I'll just go ahead and say that. Maybe they're not all the same. Some of them are going to be a lot better than the old Tropicana that I had to go to. But just, make sure you really, really analyze where those tickets are and all that type of stuff, where you're going. And also, make sure you got your ride figured out for after when you get out and you don't have to tool around on drunken on, scooters in the middle of a town you don't know. Man, thanks again for hanging out with me, Jay. We'll get out of here for the evening. Facebook.com/groups/Ono Wrestling. If you ever want to leave us a voicemail, 407-906-6466. Definitely do all that. Twitch.tv/ONRS Live. And if you ever want to check out the other show, the parent show of this, Ono Radio Show, OnoRadioShow.com, Facebook.com/groups/Ono Radio Show. And same Twitch address. That being said, let's give him a woo and get out of here, Jay! Woo!